This is a public record of my dissent. This is a public record of my dissent. This is a public record of my dissent. So to start off this live about whether or not West 4B is a TERF movement, I wanted to bring attention to another gay male and another trans-identified male and what they view is the real issue here. So West 4B has been called a TERF movement by people who are insisting that biological women are not real. The only reason why we got to this point is because West 4B stood up and said, no, biological women are real. And West 4B, we were all called TERFs. It was even said that even speaking about biological women is a dog whistle for TERFs. And I wanted to call attention to this and let you hear another perspective outside of my own. And then we're going to get into the whole backstory as to how West 4B got such a bad reputation in online today. So let's get into it.
When people try to tell me I'm transphobic, I'm like, no, you're transphobic because you are what claims to be a trans person and you don't accept yourself as being trans.
I'm not offended to be called a trans woman because I'm not ashamed to be trans.
That's why you're sitting here trying to tell me that you, as a trans woman, are the same as a genetic female.
And I'm all for acknowledging the difference between a biological woman and a trans woman.
Women are women. No, they're not.
That's why we're called trans women, and they are simply just women.
You're a trans woman. Those women are women.
Say it with me. They are women.
You are a trans woman. There's nothing wrong with that.
It doesn't take away from trans women by acknowledging this.
How is it the rest of us accept you more than you accept yourself?
It doesn't hurt me at all to make that distinction.
You wanted acceptance. You wanted validation. Well, we're validating you as exactly what you are. What you're mad at is that the rest of us aren't going to live in the land of make-believe. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. As a gay man who's been out my entire adult life and had trans friends my entire adult life, I am tired of it, and I will tell you guys, the transgender is what's messing everything up. The queer is what's messing everything up, to the point where there is a movement that's been going on for over a year now that's really catching a lot of momentum called LGB Drop the TQ. And I am trying to talk to my fellow gays and really go to bat for transsexual, because I agree we need to get rid of transgender as far as them being a part of the group, because they are unproductive people. And also, while we're on the subject of transgender, let's also talk about the fact that transgender people aren't even in a lot of cases dealing with, or say they're not dealing with, gender dysphoria, which it was like gender dysphoria was the reason that you were trans. That's the reason that you felt that transition was necessary. Oh, I don't feel like it's necessary for me to transition. Okay, well then what are we debating here? Your fashion choices? Your pronouns? Because the community I come from doesn't care about pronouns. My friends call me he, she, bitch, girl, Miss Thang, Miss Woman, Mary. There are so many ways that we tease each other and play with each other in the community. And it's like now all of a sudden, after all these years of me not caring about any of that stuff, now I'm supposed to take a step back because you think the straight community owes you a particular amount of respect and reverence. And also, you think that it's okay to curse people out all day on the internet, and then you wonder why they're voting against your best interest. Then you wonder why they aren't showing up for you. Well, it's because you pissed them all off online, and now they think they hate trans people. And you know who suffers from that? Transsexual people. That's who actually suffers from that. And a lot of that stuff is a manipulation anyway. That's what nobody wants to actually admit. Well, I see other people admitting to it now, but if you've been paying attention to me for a while, you know I've been addressing this for years, especially if you've been following me on other platforms like Facebook. The community has tried to cancel me so many times, but it's just for telling the truth. That's the reason the community has been trying to cancel me all these times, was because I was just telling the truth. Like, you literally are trying to manipulate people at every turn, and then when people find out you're being dishonest or disingenuous, and then there's the consequence of people not trusting you and people not wanting to show up for you, then you want to claim as transphobia. deal. Well, no, it's not. And I'll tell you guys the first time they really got me, the first time where I really was ready to go to bat for them, where I really was like, yeah, we got to do something about this. It was when I read doctors were going to have the right to deny trans people. So right away, this is before transgender turned into what it was, because that's what they do with us. They always just sneak it in like they did with the queer. We need to get rid of queer altogether, which originally queer was sold to us as being the Q for queer or questioning. That's what the Q stood for originally. It's just an umbrella. It's really the same. It just says that it's all of us. And that's why when you hear the old school that was just for a minute, I don't know if any of you even heard it, but there was a point where we were the LGBTQIAA, which was all ridiculous. But that's when they just decided to put a plus on the end. But originally it was queer questioning. And I made a joke about that where I was like, really? Questioning? We're even taking people that aren't sure if they want to be a part of the crowd? Okay, so we go with queer. We're going to add queer to it. Never mind the fact that I never wanted to be called queer in my life. I'd rather be called a than queer. I identify as a or a it. But now I'm supposed to go by queer, or queer was the umbrella. And I was like, okay, I don't love queer. I don't even like queer. But if that's what we're doing, I'm not trying to be difficult. What do I care? And then queer turns into what it's turned into, which is a bunch of people complaining about a bunch of stuff, straight people identifying as something so they fit under the queer umbrella. And then they can tell me as a gay man how I'm supposed to think and how I'm supposed to identify. I'm supposed to be a cis man? You. I'm not being a cis man. I am a normal man. Okay, normal is a bit of a stretch. I am a real man, and that is not a stretch. I am a man like you wish you were a man. That's what I am. If you want to call me the man you aspire to be one day, I'm comfortable with that. But as far as me being cis because you're trans and that's what makes you more comfortable, what the makes you think I'm about your comfort like that? But they'll identify as queer because this is what's going on in my head. I don't care what's going on in your head, but let me scale back. So right away when I heard that trans people were dealing with an issue, I heard the word trans and I was like, okay, my friends are in trouble. Doctors are now legally allowed to deny trans people life-saving medical care. That's the way the original headlines to it went. And I think this was in Florida. They were saying that this was the thing. Excuse my memory. I'm an older woman. And anybody that's like, this is not a woman. New rules. If they can be women, I can be women. Who's to stop me? I'm an unstoppable woman. Well-behaved women rarely make history. Groundbreaking bitch. But what I'm trying to get at is that's where they originally got me. And then I look into it, I read about it, and it turns out that what they're talking about is what now is considered gender affirming care. And call me crazy, maybe I'm the one that's confused. But when you tell me that a person is being denied life-saving care, I think that the doctors are denying them CPR. I think that the doctors are able to say, we're not going to put you on life support. We're not going to intubate if you need it. To me, that's what would be denying life-saving care. Not you need a shot of female hormones. Not you need your tits cut off unless it's breast cancer. Not you need an emergency vagina. Do you see how ridiculous that sounds? So they considered that to be life-saving because the way that they talk about it is that if trans people don't get this, they're more likely to self-delete. Well, if all that's standing between you choosing to live or end it all is a surgery, I don't think the surgery should be the priority. I think you might have a little more mental work to do if you don't get the surgery or you don't get this shot means that you're just gonna call it all off. Then I say that and I'm not being sympathetic. I'm not being empathetic. What I'm not being is pathetic. And that's what you are if you're gonna constantly emotionally blackmail people, because it's everything. Trans people might self-delete if they don't get the surgery. Some trans people self-delete after they get the surgery. How about some of these people just have problems that they need to deal with mentally first and issues with self-acceptance that they need to deal with before they start worrying about their surgeries, before they start changing their bodies. So, of course, then I felt like I had to check out everything that the trans community would say. The trans community would say was an injustice that they were dealing with. And almost 10 out of 10, what the community tells us is such a violation of rights, it's like, no, it's really not. Welcome to the rest of the world.
Riddle me this. Why would the trans-identified male demand to be centered in a feminist separatist movement like West 4B? Why would the trans-identified male go out of his way to disrupt a movement that wishes to separate from men in the aspects of sex, dating, marriage, and childbirth? Why would the trans-identified male on TikTok call for the attack of West 4B as being a TERF movement? And why would the trans-identified male want to even join a movement like this? Does he want to join the movement or does he want to disrupt it? There's a 4B that was made after I made West 4B, and they are very trans-identified male-centered. And you know that those ladies who are in that 4B group are trans-identified male-centered because they have full panel discussions on why West 4B is wrong, because it is filled with TERFs. Ask me how many trans-identified male are in their groups, though. Yeah, those ladies roll out the red carpet for the trans-identified male, all so that he cannot show up, all so that he won't attack or destroy them. And this is the real issue. He thanks her, the liberal feminist, the inclusive feminist. He thanks her for her show of solidarity and her attack on other women. He gives her a pat on the back for sticking it to the girls who don't get it. And then he leaves her lonely ass right there to advocate for him while he busies himself with other things, i.e., looking for the next group of women he believes his previous allies should attack. You can't make this shit up. But let's go back to the original question, though. Why would a trans-identified male demand to be centered in a feminist separatist movement? Yesterday, he told all of us, biological girls, that we are jealous and that there are new women in town and all of your husbands and men's and boyfriends were as good as gone because he is the better woman. Way more better than you are. And how you are not that girl anymore. Remember that? Remember he told you that? He looks better, his makeup is better, his body is nicer, and he is all in all the better woman. Remember he told you that? And to Black women, don't forget this, the trans-identified male told you that you, dear sister, cannot gatekeep anything quote unquote woman because historically you weren't even seen as a woman because you were not white. Remember the trans-identified male who said that and his video went viral and Black women stayed silent? Yeah, I remember it. Do you remember the trans-identified male who said that? I hope you do. So what's the problem then? Explain to me the problem. If West 4B says that we are separating from men, wouldn't that leave more men for the trans-identified male and the pick-me? I'm not understanding this. What is the problem here? If West 4B and the women in West 4B are saying that we are separating from men, then you have more access to the men that we're separating from. Why are these groups so livid with a movement like West 4B if they love men so much? West 4B says that we agree with the trans-identified male. We agree. Yes, sis, you are the better woman. Your makeup is better, your weave is better, your body is better, and you could take away all the men from the biological women. We are raggedy, we are out of shape, our makeup doesn't look good, we have bad bodies from giving birth. You are the better woman, sis. We're telling you that. So what is the issue when we say because you are the better woman, you should take all of the men and get going with them? Over here, we will separate from them because of what's happening to our bodies in regards to politics. What is the problem here? We are agreeing with the trans-identified male. You are the better woman. All we are saying is, take your better ass and find the men and be with them. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Take all of the men. We said this to the pick-me as well. If you are the better woman, we love that for you. At Best 4B, we love the fact that you are better. We love the fact that you have the ability to make things work with the male. We love the fact that you understand the complexity of dealing with men and you want to hone in on that and continue to do that with your life. We love that for you. As a matter of fact, we need you because we're not doing it. Someone has to. So we're offering you up to do that job. Why aren't you willing to do that job in peace? Why do you feel the need to attack a movement that says we're separating from men? You don't have to, though, but we are. What is the problem with that? The message we have for the pygmy is the same message that we have for the trans-identified male, but then something happened, like magic. The trans-identified male was also, all of a sudden, like magic, overnight, the trans-identified male was now decentering men. Can you believe it? All of a sudden, he was decentering men. All of a sudden, the trans-identified male claimed that men are actually the problem, and he wanted no parts of it, but he didn't want for women to decenter men without him, the trans-identified male, being the center of our feminist separatist movement. Sounds confusing, right? It sounds very confusing to me because you are claiming that you are the better woman and that you can take all of the men away. So women are saying, fine, take them. Then you say, no, 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 no. Wait, I don't want to take them. I just want to show you that I can take them. I want to now decenter men too. Right? That's the message. And it sounds very confusing. It sounds very confusing, right? Because if it's one thing that I will always say, it is the fact that the biological male brain is chaotic and it loves confusion, drama, and chaos. You will never get a clear answer. You will never be able to make a straight line. On one hand, the trans-identified male says that he is better than you and can take your man from you, and that's the reason why you hate him so much. You hate the trans-identified male because you are not that girl, right? The body is set up. The weave is set up. The makeup is better than yours. He's better than you. This is what he's telling you, and this is what he's telling you in regards to relationships, and that the only reason why you're mad at him is because you feel that he's taking your femininity and your women and your womanhood away. This is what he's telling you. And he's telling you that, well, actually, I can take your man. I can. I can take your man, and I will take your man, and I will sleep with your husband, and I will do all of the things that I've been saying that I'm going to do to you for 10, 15 years now. I will take all of the men. So now women are saying, you know what? You're actually right. You are the better woman, and I think that you are more equipped for the job. You should take all of the men. Just leave us out of it so that we can have this peace over here and deal with what we need to deal with in regards to our bodily autonomy. That's it. That's it. Take all of the men that you can handle and go. That's it. And this is what he said that he was going to do. So I'm very confused as to why he's not picking up all of the men that the West 4B women don't want and running off into the sunset. Isn't that interesting? Now, all of a sudden, that women are decentering men, he too now wants to decenter men. Yesterday, sis, you didn't want to decenter men. Yesterday, you said that, well, I'm the better woman, and I can take your man from you. We get it. We're happy for you. We love that for you. We love the fact that you can beat your face to the fucking gods. We enjoy it. We love the fact that you are fierce. We love the fact that you are the better woman. Yes, work. We love that for you. Now, please just go. And there's nothing wrong with women wanting to be alone right now in a society that says you do not have access to what you want to do to your own body. Let women mourn the way they want to mourn. And if mourning means holding space with other women, then let biological women do that without you and your foot in the middle of it. But no, we can't have that luxury, can we? It's frustrating. It's frustrating in its corner because on one hand, the trans-identified male says that he is better and he can take your man from you. But the minute you as a biological female says, okay, take all the men and go, he claims that he's now no longer interested in men and wants to decenter them, but also wants to decenter them with you in your feminist, separatist, radical space, but had you center him and his issues over your own issues? Isn't that Confusing? I think it's confusing. What about you? Listening to this right now, do you think that's confusing? Yesterday, these trans-identified males said that they were the better women. I agree. You are the better woman. Now be the better woman and take all of the men and leave. That's it, right? That's it. And this is another reason as to why I will never rock or allow any trans-identified male to rock in the space with these radical feminists that we have here in West 4B, because he doesn't want inclusion. He doesn't want inclusion. He wants to be center amongst women, and he wants for us, for his issues to be the center of our movement. He wants for his issues to be the main focus. And as a feminist, radical, separatist movement, we are focused on the sex-based rights of biological women and girls, and there is nothing wrong with that. There are more 4Bs now, and those lukewarm women will embrace you, center you, and make you top priority. I will not, and that is my fucking right as a red-blooded, tax-paying American citizen. White men, okay, just write this down. Get a piece of paper and write this down. White men had exclusive groups since early philosophers walked the fucking earth. Did you hear what I just said? White men in general, have had exclusive groups where they banned women from entering those groups since the dawn of time. Even today, any male to female trans space, you as a biological woman could not stick your fucking foot in it. But here he is, as a trans-identified male, trying to push his way into all of your spaces, and then cries that he's a victim of hate when you say, oh no, can we just have this little thing for ourselves? We don't really have anything else right now. He says no. And then to shut you up, he calls you a bigot. He calls you a TERF. This is male behavior. So let's go back to it. White men have had exclusive groups since the early philosophers walked the earth, and no one made them include women in shit. These early philosophers, you go look it up and see how many women were in their schools with them. Not many. Very rare. Right? Very rare. And as a matter of fact, women were shut out and excluded. And she sat her ass in the back, she laid on her back, and she got pregnant, and she said nothing when she was excluded. She said nothing. When men excluded her, she didn't say shit. Okay? She didn't. Now, all of a sudden, you ladies want to rise up against me because I'm doing the same shit that these fucking men have done for centuries? Rubbish. Rubbish, and it's not happening. This is the reason why men make a mockery of women, because women don't stand for shit. She's soft, and he's conditioned her to be soft. He's conditioned her to be scared of him. This is a reason why she welcomes him with open arms, and he can't even stand her. So yeah, you have a 4B and it's trans inclusive, and watch none of them participate. Watch none of them participate. And the minute that you say that you are a biological woman, watch them question that too. Look at what's happening with Katy Perry right now. Katy Perry had one music video, and in her music video about women, she had a, I guess it was a sequenced ornament that was being held up. In the sequenced ornament, what was it? It was a uterus. It was like a pink uterus. Katy Perry is now being attacked for associating a uterus with women because she's being told, well, some women are born without a uterus. Which ones? Which ones? You can be lukewarm all you want to, but then if you are lukewarm, then stay away from women who are on fire. And that's me. I'm on fire. I'm not lukewarm. I don't pussyfoot around issues that are important to me. If something is bothering me, I get up and I do something about it. Similar to the Not Our Crimes petition that I'm 25 signatures away from 200. because I feel that it's wrong that biological males can commit crimes and those be labeled as female crimes. I think it's wrong that the first time in history, women are being labeled as fucking pedophiles and they're not actual female women. They're not women. These are biological men. That infuriates me. But for some reason, to the liberal feminists, well, it's okay. It doesn't matter what crimes that people commit. No, it matters. It does matter. It does matter. But the biological male has convinced you that it doesn't matter, similar to all of the other things that he convinced you of, right? He convinced you that there was a fucking God in the sky. He convinced you that the only way that you can be saved is through the Father. He convinced you of the soul. He convinced you of the fucking spirit. He convinced you of all of the nonsense that had no fucking proof in this reality. And here you sit on the internet calling yourself a witch, walking around claiming to be so spiritual, but you can't do shit to help another woman, can you? With all of your spirituality. Women in the Gaza Strip right now are at death's door. And here you are with your magical powers that he told you that you had, because this is why you flex like you're better than everyone. Here you are, and you're doing nothing with your magical powers to help other women. Under your watch as a spiritual witch, we lost Roe v. Wade, you lose access to birth control, and the Handmaid's Tale is knocking on the fucking door. But here you are, holy and spiritual. It's all in a fucking illusion. It's illusion and it's delusional, and this is male ideologies at play. And trans ideology adds right into it. The concept of God, the concept of trans, the concept of the soul, the concept of spirit is not based in reality because you cannot see it. What you can see, though, is that you as a biological woman, you bleed. Yeah, you're bleeding. You have proof of that blood, don't you? For all of the women out there who gave birth, and you had a trans-identified male say, well, just because you give birth, that doesn't really make you a woman. You remember what a contraction felt like, don't you? You remember what it was like to get cut open, don't you? You remember what the epidural felt like when it went into your fucking spine, don't you? So if that doesn't make you uniquely a woman, then what the fuck is? Where are we? Yeah, but we're going to get into this talk about how it came to be that West 4B is full of TERFs, because the narrative comes out of the mouth of a male. It doesn't come out of the mouth of who it actually happened to and who was there. And this is how the majority of women get their information. They get it from people with cocks. They get it from the person with a set of balls hanging outside of his body. That's where they get the narrative. That's where they get the narrative. They don't get the narrative from other women because they don't trust other women, because that's their programming. They trust what other men say. So if men say, oh, well, West 4B is filled with TERFs, there you are agreeing with it and you have no idea what you're fucking agreeing with. But we're going to get into it because we're going to talk about how it all happened. We're just going to talk about it. Yeah. Women have the right to mourn. Women have the right to mourn. I'm going to say it again. Women have the right to mourn. And if her mourning means holding space with other women who mourn over what is happening to girls and women all over the planet, then let her have that moment. Let her have that. At least let her have her tears and where she wants to shed her tears. Everything is being ripped away from women right now, including her title, including the label mother. We're at a fucking time in history where the trans-identified male and the trans ideology have convinced the entire world that we have no idea what a woman is. We have no idea what a mother is. And they want you to believe that they're only doing this because of the trans-identified female and the non-binary person who has issues with these labels, but it's not true, because the trans-identified female, from what we've seen in the past 10 to 15 years, is a ghost. The trans-identified female is a ghost. The non-binary person is a ghost. The trans-identified male, though, yes, he rides in on a fucking horse every single time. So when you hear these issues about we don't know what a woman is, it has nothing to do with the trans-identified female and her not wanting to be labeled woman. Bullshit. If anything, she doesn't give a shit because she's been programmed to lay down as she has been doing, right? You really don't see any trans-identified females standing up for women's rights. They don't kind of give a shit. We really don't see it. We may have Buck Angel, and Buck Angel talks about what's happening to biological women all the time. And I remember when Buck Angel was doing porn. It's great to see Buck Angel where Buck Angel is today. But as a matter of fact, we have to go back to the trans-identified female is asleep. She doesn't give a shit. She doesn't give a shit about anything that anyone is saying. Especially this issue with we're being told that biological women don't exist. And this is how we got here in West 4B. So if women want to mourn, if women are sad about what's happening to young girls, if women are hearing stories about, 6-year-olds getting pregnant and then not being able to get abortions, or 10-year-olds getting raped by their uncles and their brothers, and all of these men who are taking advantage of these young girls, if women want to mourn over that because we can't seem to fight it, we have no strength in patriarchy, we can only sit and watch it happen, why can't you allow women to just have space? That's all we're asking for. We're not saying to kick down the door and do what you've done. No, all we're saying is let us just have this one tiny thing because we don't have anything else. We don't have anything else. And you can see that we don't have anything else. So if West 4B says, no, we're going to set up a space and we're going to meet and we're going to talk and we're going to have this online community that it's vibrant, and we can sit around and watch films and talk about our pets, our gardening, why can't you allow us to have that space without it being labeled a TERF movement? The only reason why people call West 4B TERF is because I said originally that biological women, that XX chromosome shit, that biological women exist. That is what was said originally when way back in April. That started the whole attack of West 4B online. That started my doxing. That started my mother's address getting leaked online. That started people calling me a scammer. That started people saying that I stole millions of dollars from them. I stole someone's house. I stole another girl's Mercedes Benz. They even called me a rapist on the internet. Because all I said was that biological women exist. And this was the outpour from the trans-identified male and his flying monkeys, the liberal feminists, who came rallying behind him, no, in front of him, to take down this TERF movement. And the only thing I said was that biological women exist. It's on my website. I said biological women exist and this space is for them. And there's nothing wrong with that because, again, historically, men have always had exclusive spaces. The Ku Klux Klan, exclusive space. The Black Panther Party, exclusive space. We can go on and on. The Brown Berets, exclusive space. Chicago 7, exclusive space. All of these historical instances, there were things that were exclusive. And from the lesson that we've learned from Black Lives Matter, when you include everything, it muddies the waters. And we saw that with Black Lives Matter, no? Why is everyone pretending that they don't see the fucking truth? When you include everyone, the original message gets tarnished. It turns into shit. And then you stand for nothing while standing for everyone and you get nothing accomplished for yourself. So yes, the Black woman is inclusive and she loves everyone to have a seat on her fucking lap, but then nothing for her gets accomplished. People use her and then she's left alone. So while all the trans-identified males rallied up all the Black women to come attack West 4B, where are those relationships now? I bet you money that they don't even speak to each other anymore. If women want to mourn because of what's happening to them because of their sex-based rights, if women are seeing what's happening to women in the Congo, women in Guatemala, women in Puerto Rico, women in the Dominican Republic, women in Colombia, women in New York City, if biological women can see what's happening to other biological women on the planet and they want to mourn that, then let them mourn that. The trans-identified male does not give a shit about what happens to the biological female. He's made that very clear, especially with West 4B. His main concern when he took down West 4B or sent people to take down West 4B was to get it destroyed because he wasn't included in it. And he didn't even want to be included in it. He just wanted the invitation just so that he can deny the invitation. Similar to the other 4Bs that are allowing him to be a member, is he active? No. Because originally, the trans-identified male never set himself up to decenter man. That was never the plan. The plan was for the trans-identified male to live and exist as a woman. And in society, we know that when you live and exist as a woman, many times your femininity and your womanhood is based on a male picking you, marrying you, getting you pregnant, dating you, courting you. That was it to the trans-identified male. That's all they wanted. Many of them, some of them claimed to be lesbians, the rest of them not. A lot of them, claim to still be attracted to biological men. So what is wrong with West 4B saying, okay, well, we're going to just make this space for biological women and that's it. That's okay too. And again, this is just a tiny little thing. This is nothing. In comparison to all of the other vast majority of groups that the trans-identified male has privy to and privilege to. Out of 1 million groups, the trans-identified male can pick 20 dozen and have a place to sit. Biological women don't have that anymore. One, the relationships between biological women is strained. Women don't trust women. Women don't talk to women. Women view other women as traitors. Other women are snakes in the grass a lot of the times. So women have a lot of healing to do. And not the spiritual healing. I'm talking about actual real life healing. That includes talking, research, finding out where our thought patterns come from. That's my work. That's what I do. And yes, to you, it's corny. But to the women who are in West 4B right now, it's not. It's not corny. It's not corny. And the movement was originally set up to be that. It turned into something awful because of the trans-identified male and the flying monkeys that follow behind him or in front of him, like I said earlier. The message is the message, and only a corny bitch will ignore the message for the sake of centering a biological male in a dress. I will talk about how badly I was attacked online and how these attacks actually helped me make connections with other women who were also attacked because of the same beliefs. Isn't that funny? All of the women who are in West 4B now were fucking allies to the trans community. Can you believe that? You should. Every single, all 52 of us, fucking hardcore trans allies, until one day, like magic, we peaked trans. And my peak trans was what happened to me online. With all of the women in West 4B were previous trans allies on some, no, trans women should be centered. There's no one on the planet who struggles more than the trans-identified male. We were all spewing out the same ideology like vomit. We all believed in what we were told and we were all allies until one day that changed. And for me personally, that changed when I was attacked because I said simply that no biological women do exist and that there is some such thing as a mother. And the trans-identified male says no. You know how many allies the trans-identified male loses daily because of this bullying behavior? A lot. Even right now, the women who were in the previous group, none of them speak to me on the strength of that trans-identified male. They all blocked me. None of them talk to me. They come in the comment section to say bad things. They do those things like that. They always try to bully. That's their tactic. They like to gang up because this is how men show them how to behave. So they will attack me. So the group that I have now, all of those women, this same thing happened to them. They were attacked on Twitter. They were attacked on Facebook. They were attacked on TikTok. And when they saw the videos come out of me getting destroyed, they all reached out to me and said, no, 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 no. You have to do things differently if this is what you are serious about. And that's what I did. That's what I did. It's like when you get the drop, you know what the drop is? The drop on information, and people tell you how to flex after they see what's happening to you because it happened to them. That's exactly what I did. And it's more successful now because more people are opening their eyes to what they're being told. I have more support now than I had in April. Now that the website is shut off and everything is closed off and we say nothing, it's wilder now on the other side. And the reason why it's wilder on the other side is because those women were bullied too. They were bullied too. They were doxxed too. They were exposed too. People call them scammer. It's the same story with the male and with the women who act on behalf of that male. The male identified woman might as well be a male because they act the same. They bully, they stalk, they try to expose. It's that all of the women in the group, the West 4B, all of them were allies. Every last one. It is not bigotry to call attention to biological reality, which some of you goofy ladies are claiming is a TERF dog whistle. This is what men convinced you of. This is what the trans-identified male did to your brain. He convinced you by saying that biological women exist is hate. So you are scared to say it. Sure, whatever you have to say to prove that when it comes to that trans-identified male, you are chicken shit. And he gets off on how scared you are of him. What I went through, you can never go through. And after going through that and getting my nice death threats and my doxing ceremony, I am now liberated and baptized by fucking fire. Right? Baptized by fire. All of the trans-identified males came for me, and all of the liberal feminists came for me, and all of the woke, I guess, left came for me as well, because that's what they call themselves. And then they did the teaming language of, oh, because you claim that biological women exist, that means that you're a white supremacist. How? How? How can I be a white supremacist by claiming that biological women exist and claiming that it's okay to say the word mother? How did we get here? How am I being linked to white supremacy as a woman of color because I simply stated that no, biological women actually exist. We are alive. There's a difference. There's a reality. What happens to us is based on our sex. When these little girls are getting married at 9 years old, when they perform a female genital mutilation ceremony, when the 8-year-old is pregnant, when the 10-year-old girl gets pregnant and she can't get an abortion and she sits in a courtroom and everyone tries to figure out what to do with her, then at those times, you know what a girl is. You know what a woman is. When it comes to surrogacy, where these couples want to buy children, some of them gay couples, some of them trans couples. At that time, magically, you know what a woman is. When it's time for you to make a purchase, when it's time for you to take a withdrawal, you know what a woman is then. When it's time to oppress, you know what a woman is then. When it's time to push aside, or when it's time to told to get back, you know exactly what a woman is then. But when it comes time to her biological reality of existing and her ability, if she has the capacity to give birth, that being reality, then, oh, we don't know what a woman is. We have no idea. When it comes time for sex, when it comes time for her to get on a pole and perform, in some cases, we all know what a woman is then. But now, when it comes time to her separating herself and her wanting to have this space to mourn and to say how heartbroken she is, because we as women, as biological women, we should all be heartbroken with the news that we see happening to little girls and young women. We should be heartbroken at the violence. We should be heartbroken at what's happening to children in the Congo. We should be heartbroken with what's happening to the mother and the child. We should all be heartbroken right now. And instead of this petty going back and forth and being small-minded, we should be more concerned with what can we do? What can we do? Who can we advocate for? What can we put together? I don't see anyone putting anything together. I see a lot of spirituality going on, but I don't see any of those spirituality practices being transferred to women who fucking really need it. You don't think a 6-year-old girl would need your spiritual practices? Miss Spirituality? Miss Holy Ninth Ether Goddess on the moon? You don't think that a 9-year-old who's being raped in the Congo right now would need your spiritual know-how to keep her safe? I mean, if you're powerful, then where is your fucking power? Where is your power if you're powerful? And this is why I can't subscribe to spirituality. I can't subscribe to the concept of God. I can't subscribe to the concept of the soul because it's not based in reality. It's hoo-ha to make one have a one-up or a leg up on who you are. It's an I'm better than you trick that a lot of women participate in. So a woman will cast a spell to get a boyfriend, but she won't cast a spell to overturn fucking Roe v. Wade for us. All of that power, and look at the seat that women are sitting in globally. Not even in your own backyard. This is globally. So if women are this powerful, where is the power? It seems like the only power that women have is when it's time to attack another woman. But when it comes time to the male and to stand up to that male and to say, no, I don't like what you're saying to me. I don't like it. It doesn't sit right with me. She's chicken shit. She's chicken shit. She's scared. She doesn't want to get doxxed. She doesn't want any problems. She doesn't want any issues. And if anyone so happens to kind of question the male, she will fucking attack you for it. So that's where her spirituality lies, in the easy target, not the person who's the actual aggressor. Not the person who's actually telling you a flat out fucking lie. That, oh yeah, well, a woman can be born with a penis. Is that true? If you are listening to that right now, is that fucking true? That a woman can be born with a penis? Why are we scared to tell the truth? If it were anyone else, you guys would tell the truth and shame the devil, as you all say. But when it comes to this issue, everyone is scared. I can't be scared anymore because whatever bad can happen to me happened to me already, right? They all came for me. One by one, 50, 60 women holding live sessions going on and on and on for months. So what else can happen now? Right? So in the West 4B, the members only, all of us had this same thing happen. This TERF accusation. All of us had been on that other side of losing relationships, losing, some of them say that they had friendships with other, I guess, people in the community, and then I guess they kind of voiced their just beliefs, and, they lost friends, and they lost community, and they lost, I guess, online community. They lost their family members stopped talking to them, some of the ladies in the group. I don't feel when I lose anything that it's a loss. If I lose something, it was never meant to be in my life anyway. So, but that's just how I think. Some people would say, oh no, I had a friendship with this individual and now we no longer talk. The person that I am, that was never your friend. Because if a friend can stop talking to you on something that's based in reality, then that person was never your friend. And I think that this business of throwing around the friend title, a lot of people aren't your friend. They don't wish you well. They don't really give a shit about you. So I don't feel anything that I lost from the beginning of West 4B in 2023 up until this point. It's not a loss to me. If anything, it's dead baggage, and it actually helped me get to where I am now. So sometimes it's a good thing to shake off filth, right? It's a good thing to kind of shake that off, because when you shake it off, you make room for, oh, wow, this happened to you too? This happened to you too? Oh, I know that I'm not crazy now. 50 women, and all the same thing happened to them. Ostracized on Twitter, their accounts taken down, their writings, I think it's called Substack, one woman removed from Substack, all of her content gone. Even with Kay Yang, she had a Patreon. All of Kay Yang's Patreon money gone. So this is what happens when women are actually on fire and not lukewarm, like the women who are kind of saying, oh yes, a man can be born with a penis. And women don't have a vagina. As a matter of fact, I have no idea what a woman is. So there's different types of women. And the women who are saying, no, this is the truth, those are the women who I fuck with right now, not the other ones. So I don't feel that anything is a loss. If the doctrine were sound, as you claim it is, there would then be no need to attack. The doctrine and ideology is not sound, and the more that you, as an individual, do your own independent research, the more you begin to pull apart this particular ideology. This is how many biological women get to their peak trans state. You collectively step away from what you were conditioned to believe and figure out for yourself the roots of this ideology and where it comes from. The fact that many trans-identified individuals attack people who think for themselves shows you that these faith-based beliefs are no different than other faith-based beliefs built by men and their sexual desires. And we all know that the sexual desires of the male literally moves the earth that we are all walking on. His deep-seated need, his deep-seated lust and need for sex has moved his hand and dictated his behavior throughout history. Since the dawn of time, many women, including myself, start off as allies to the trans community, specifically allies. How can we not? Every woman, every Black woman out there is the most forgiving, loving, and accepting of anything male that is presented to her. There was even one point in time when I screamed that trans women are women. When it comes to their programming, this is the chant that I heard most often. I especially heard this more, way, way more than trans men are men. Have you ever noticed that? When you see the rallies that they hold, you don't really hear them chanting, trans men are men, trans men are men. No, 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 no. They never do. Very rarely. What you hear them chanting is, trans women are women, right? And every single protest that I saw on television, in every single gay bar all over New York City, the mantra was sold to me, the programming sentence that was sold to me as a woman of color was that trans women are women. Now they're saying that trans women are biological women. Trans women are cis women. I thought the cis title was for those who were biological women and their sex lined up with their gender identity lined up with their sex. I thought that cis belonged to the cornballs, right? That's how they presented it. But now the chant is, especially if you went to Pride in New York City this summer, the chant is, no, we're cis women. The trans-identified male is saying, no, we're cis. We are the biological women, and move the fuck over, because we have an alliance that will come for everything that you think you understood. Right? So who cannot be an ally under that type of pressure? All women I knew maybe 5, 10 years ago were allies. We were all allies, and we were scared to kind of not be an ally. You don't want to not be an ally to a trans-identified male. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Some of these trans-identified male have, AK-47s in their bedroom. Some of these trans-identified male will come up and gut you like a fish if you don't agree. This is violence. This is male violence. And many women are allies because they know about male violence and they don't want any parts of it. So I was one of those women. I agreed. I subscribed, I said everything that I was supposed to say, and even chanted down other women who I believed at that time were already peaked. I wasn't peaked then when I was defending the trans-identified male, but I got my peaking quick though. when he said that, well, bitch, even though you bank hard for us, you don't fucking exist. And that was the kick in the teeth that I got from the trans-identified male. Here I am with my fist up yelling, no, the trans women are women. And he says to me, oh no, bitch, we're biological women and you don't fucking exist. And just because you had a baby or just because you ladies had a baby, that don't make you no woman. That is what I was told. And that was my peak trans. And I was also told that they are the most marginalized, the most oppressed, the most discriminated group in the world, right? The most oppressed, the most discriminated group on the entire globe. No one has it harder than the trans-identified male, and that was something that I believed in. That was something that I advocated for because that is what I was told. That was my programming. I was even told that the trans-identified Black male has it harder than actual Black biological women, even though I kind of knew statistically that can't be true. Because if they represent such a small percentage, and I guess for the percentage number, I guess some people would say that, no, well, yeah, they are victims. But to say that they are the most oppressed on the planet, more oppressed than Black biological women? So trans-identified males in California are more oppressed than the Black biological women right now in South Africa? And the Congo? They're more oppressed than those women? That is what I was told. And I believed it. I believed it forever. How can you not? You are a kid from New York City. You grow up in the most liberal state on the planet. You frequent Pride every year since you were 12 or 11. How can you not agree? We all agreed. All of the ladies in the West 4B member space movement all agreed. We were all liberal feminist allies. We were all screaming that sex work is work, that it's okay that, girls who sell their body sells their body. We all had the same programming. We all had the same programming until one day something happened and that just shifted the narrative or the programming in our brain. And also, as a side note, you know, we all see what happens when you do anything to get trans people upset, including questioning their logic and thinking for yourself. I went along with it and went along with it until I started a little movement and made it exclusive to biological women and was attacked online for it. Mind you, up until this point, like I said, I was a complete ally. I sat with all of the other Black women and screamed that Black trans-identified males have it harder than any individual on the planet. And I said this because, again, it's a program. It's all a program. And I didn't say it because it was the actual truth. I didn't say it because it was the actual truth. Not at all. Because statistically, we could see what's happening to Black biological women in regards to violence. I was a victim of violence. So many women were victims of violence. So to kind of get this new speak of what happens to you really doesn't matter, sis. It's all about us. And we are the victims and we need to be shielded and protected, not you. And that's the dialogue that I got. The actual truth was that Black biological women are killed almost triple the rate by their Black biological male counterparts than this trans-identified male. Black trans-identified male are victims of violence, yes, but their violence, or the violence, I'm sorry, waged against them comes from other Black men and not Black women. Then I was told something else to believe, and I believed it, and that was any opposition to the trans-identified Black male was more violent than the actual violence he was facing from other biological men in the street. And to that, I believed it because that's the narrative as well. The minute that you don't agree, the minute that you question, they associate your questioning and your thinking for yourself as violence against them. And they will associate you with being a violent person. similar to like someone who unalives them or grapes them. They're putting you in the same ballpark as that person who actually does them physical harm. So they want blind loyalty, blind dedication. I believe it all. I think we all did. But then I wrote here, but then I had to pause. How is me questioning trans ideology more violent than actual men killing trans identified males? And now we're getting to the seat of what some would call the TERF wars, right? This is it. So, with all male ideologies, you have to conform and ask no questions. Historically, we have seen this in religion and we have also seen this in spirituality. The goal of the programmer is to have you blindly accept all concepts without question. And the reason why there is this battle between trans identified males and biological women is because the biological woman's affirmation of him solidifies his existence and therefore makes it real. The chanting is deliberate. The repetition of certain words is deliberate. It's to program you with this new language, these linguistic tricks. You have to be programmed. And the first way of you being programmed is through your mouth, through your language. You have to conform by way of words. Okay? Similar to you needing to profess your sins and declare that there is a God to make it real in your life. These are the groupthink patterns of behavior that makes all allegories naturalized in our psyche. It always starts out as a suggestion, and then it moves to the target, repeating what was said, and that taking flight. This is the bully of the transhumanist. This is the belly. The belly of it all is the transhumanist agenda. We have to replace you and hide that we are doing it also that you can participate in your own erasure. 30 years ago, there was no one on a large scale calling biological women uterus holders and vagina carriers. I am sure that there was some mad scientist out there who wrote these thoughts, but his thoughts were never put into law and then into public medical research papers so that the spoon feeding is small and you have to bank on more to come for you to swallow. This is the start of all indoctrinations as as women have recognized these patterns so that we can halt what is happening. And I'm going to read that again. We as women, we have to recognize these patterns so that we can halt what is happening to all of us despite our race. Okay? The West 4B right now, women of different races, and all of them went through the same thing that I went through in regards to being called a TERF and bullied on the internet. And it's, I can't even tell, and I know a lot of them are listening now, but I can't even tell you how comforting it is to kind of be around women who actually gave me ideas on what to do and how to combat what was happening to me online. Like I didn't have that before in the other group. If anything, in the other group, all of the women were kind of like, laughing at the fact that all of this was happening to me. They were like kind of getting off on, oh, well, there's another live being held about West 4B. Let me send it to you to make fun of you. That's the old group. The old group kind of they just wanted to see that happen to me. They wasn't really fucking with me like that. And that's why when someone said in the group that they lost all of these friendships and I didn't lose anything because they weren't fucking rocking with me in the beginning. You can't lose anything that didn't rock with you from the beginning of time. If a person who's no longer your friend in your life, they were never your friend. They were never supposed to be in your life. But I guess, of course, we live in this, everything has a spiritual meaning. Women attach meaning to everything. And I'm one of the individuals that will tell you spirituality and the soul bullshit isn't real, and you shouldn't attach anything to anything other than what it actually is. If someone fucks with you Thursday and then that on Friday, they never fucked with you from the beginning. And that's period. We have to stop romanticizing other women who do not think the way we think, because other women are not going to think the way we think. We have to stop this spiritual connection and this spiritual speak of, well, I have to think about how the healing has to take. Just stop that, because it's not based in reality. If someone fucks with you Thursday and then, the next Monday or Sunday or Friday, they hate your guts, they always hated your guts. Can I say that again? If someone hates you on Monday, but yesterday they were your friend, they always hated you. They were never your friend. They were just waiting for an opportunity to kind of get it all out of themselves. And you have to accept that and not cry about it and make it something more than what it is. And that's what I give to the group, because a lot of women in the group, I guess they lost friends, especially with the whole LGBTQ trans community. They lost a lot of friends. Some women lost friends that they've known for 12, 13 years. I am the person to say, yeah, that person was never your friend. Your friendship was based on you agreeing with them. The minute that you did not agree with them, if you lost them, they were never your friend. They were only entertaining you because you were telling them everything that they wanted to hear. That sister, friend, girlfriend is not a friend. It's not a friend. It's not a friend. I've never had one friend since the beginning of Best 4B movement. And I'm proud to say that I've never had this connection with this other person. Not at all. I've always knew that what happened to me because of the company that I was keeping. And it was good that it happened that way, because now I am in the company of women who the same thing happened to. And we all have to put it as, well, it's us against the trans ideology and the women who subscribe to it. If it has to be that way, then it has to be that way. So we have to, again, as women, we have to recognize these patterns so that we can halt what is happening to all of us despite our race. If you don't have access to birth control or abortions, and all of your spaces are being invaded, and you don't want them to, your sex-based rights are being eroded. And the last thing they want you to know is that this erosion is happening. Men will constantly tell you that nothing is wrong and there is no need for alarm, all so that he can slip a knife in your back and then blame you when you finally notice that the knife is there. Women, biological women don't stand for shit, and the biological male knows this, and that is why he is able to get away with so fucking much. He also knows that biological women have a persistent desire to be liked, and this desire is what makes her so accepting to shit that she really does not like, but is scared to resist. All women should fear the trans-identified male. Can I say that again? All women should fear the trans-identified male. I'm petrified of the trans-identified male. Look at what he organized to happen to me online. Look at the attack. Have you ever been in a situation where almost 200 people are talking about you and making up pages on you online on TikTok? It's the scariest shit ever. And then on top of it, not only do you have to worry about the trans-identified male, you have to worry about his counterpart, the liberal feminist who's, getting off on it. Because she secretly never liked you anyway, but she really couldn't come out and say that, because what else was she going to do? The trans-identified male gave her that freedom to open her wings and go in for the kill. And that's what she did. So everyone should be petrified of what the trans-identified male can set up and get away with. And we see this all the time. There's so many instances of like us just being in the Zoom, and there's one girl who watches those, those police body cam footage videos. Have you ever seen those? Like it's just like a live or a video of the police body cam. And the police they're just showing you what their day-to-day life is. There's so many instances that even in the Discord, we put in the Discord that the male is capable of ruining the lives of women. And he does it so easily. He does it so easily. We saw another, and I'm going to make a video on this one, about the woman who was set on fire by her friends at the behest of a man. Do you know that all the friends got life, 25 years to life in prison, and the man that they were all fighting for, that they were all fighting to defend, he didn't do 1 day in jail. So everyone should be afraid of the male. Everyone should be afraid of the trans-identified male, because the trans-identified male in the spaces of women, in the spaces of biological women, is very dangerous. And he's dangerous because he can triangulate all of you against each other, which he does to perfection. And it works so well because it's so easy. It's so easy to. It is so easy to triangulate women against each other when there's a man smack dab in the middle. And he loved being smack dab in the middle. Women fighting around him gives him an erection. I'm always going to say that. So this is why I didn't want a space with trans-identified males, because I know that many of them are messy as fuck. And they like being messy because when they're messy, it gets you off of what you need to do in regards to your bodily autonomy. You can't really talk about politics and how to help other women and girls when you're constantly fighting over bullshit. But the trans-identified male loves the fight. He's chaotic. In his brain, it's dramatic. It's always drama. And you know that it's always drama because he is not in any other circle with any other trans-identified male. Maybe other than Reddit. But in his personal life, no. But from what I've seen, he's alone. So yes, you should be. You should be petrified of the trans-identified male. If you are allowing him into your female space with other women, you should walk on eggshells as much as you can, because the minute that you do not, or the minute that you decide that, well, I don't really like what you are saying to me, the trans-identified male will come for your neck. Right? And if you go to TERFisaslur.com, you see his behavior. So yes, allow the trans-identified male in your space and you deal with him accordingly. But just be sure that when you deal with him, you are on your best fucking behavior. You give him white glove treatment, you walk on eggshells, you bow your head and you say thank you, and you shut the fuck up about it. And for the women who are not including him in our spaces, you leave us alone and you deal with him. That's the only remedy for you, because when we want to exclude him, you are calling us bigots and you're saying that we're TERFs. Okay, wonderful. Let's be TERFs. You don't be a TERF though. And I want you to keep him in your space and then oppose him in anything and see how that goes for you. You cannot oppose him. You cannot oppose the trans-identified male. You must agree with him. Because the minute that you do not agree with him, you will see the masculinity rise up in your face, as it did me, as it did all of the 54 women in that members group on west4bmovement.com. All of them were allies. They were allies. They loved nothing more than a drag queen and a trans-identified male and work, purr. And then something happened. They disagreed and they were treated so horribly. And then they were ostracized and they lost their friends and they lost their families and they cry about it. Many of them cry about it. I'm not crying about shit because I didn't lose anything. I didn't lose anything. And I'm always going to keep saying that. If you fuck with me on Monday, but then you didn't fuck with me on Wednesday, you never fucked with me. You never liked me. And you were just waiting for the opportunity to make it clear, which is fine. I don't take anything as a loss. It's a rebirth, because now the people that I have around me now, they know exactly what happened to me and how they were able to survive it. If it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be able to. If it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be able to make these great connections with these women who are on some, no girl, this is what you need to do with your website. You need to close it down. You need to put this, that, and this. And I didn't got that information before. I just ran out there like a wild banshee saying that no, biological women exist. And they told me, no, you cannot do that. You cannot go on the internet right now as a biological woman and scream that biological women exist. Are you nuts? These trans-identified males will kill you. They will slaughter you online. And that's exactly what they did. And they said, yeah, well, if we knew you before you did this West 4B movement shit, it would have never happened to you, because we would have told you, no, you keep everything under wraps. You just nod and you agree with the trans-identified male. Because the trans-identified male needs to be coddled. He needs to be affirmed. He needs for you to do these things. And if you don't do these things, so fake baby Jesus help you. But the thrill that I have now is that there's so many other 4Bs that the trans-identified male has found peace in. And I love that. I love that. I love that for those 4Bs. I love the fact that they're allowing trans-identified males into their feminist separatist movement space. I think it's brilliant. I think it's wonderful. And then I also kind of roll with what we see as his behavior. When you do not agree with him, it is enough to keep you up at night. And this is what he wants from you. You better fear him and do what he says and think how he wants you to think, or else. And many women do not have the balls to deal with the or else. They may talk shit about West 4B, but none of them could go through what I went through online because of the trans-identified male and the Black women who he sent in for reinforcements that he later discarded when he was done with her. All of the attacking West 4B for making space exclusively for biological women, and not one trans-identified male said thank you for attacking West 4B, or you're invited to dinner at my house. So they went on they jumped on the bandwagon. They said West 4B is trash. She's out here claiming that biological women exist like an idiot. She's a fucking bigot. Her website says that biological women exist. Let's go fucking attack her. And the trans-identified male said, thank you for attacking her. Did he even give you a coupon? A gift certificate? What did you get for your allegiance? Nothing? Yeah, I didn't think so. He never invited you to hang out with his trans sisters or even defended you when you, the Black biological woman, needed help. Isn't that interesting? You go through such lengths to defend him. And then when you're in hot water by yourself, aren't you? Yeah. He used you to take down a feminist, separatist movement because, funny as it may be, the last thing that this trans-identified male wants is for biological women to decenter and move away from the biological male. He will always need your company because having access to you and your spaces is access to your life force, because on his own, there is no community within his own community. There was no real community within his community, and this is why he is so obsessed with being a part of yours. Men develop nothing on their own. Men develop nothing on their own. Remember when West 4B pulled up on TikTok? And there were so many men talking about 4B, and then there was that one guy who made 5B, and then there was another guy who made 4C, and then there was another guy who made 16D. This is men. This is who you're following behind. Not an original fucking thought in their brain, but they're able to get you to perform for them with feathers on, right? Men develop nothing on their own. They are group thinkers who possess a pack mentality. They aim to disrupt, tear apart, destroy, and take over. This is in their biological makeup. And when Jordan Peterson and Kevin Samuels and all of these other men tell you the same exact thing that I am telling you, you are the one who disagrees. You are the one who disagrees with me, but you will never disagree with them. Men are group thinkers, and they want for you to be group thinkers. Right? They want you to participate in that sheep mindset. Okay, so me saying that biological women do exist is radical right now because the biological male is pushing out that no, there's no such thing as a biological woman. You're a liar, West 4B. What do you mean that there's a biological woman? Just because you have a baby, that doesn't make you a woman? Are you serious? That's what I'm being attacked for on the internet. That's what I'm being attacked for on the internet. Because I made a website, and on my website, I said that this space is for biological women only. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. Um, I created West 4B to be an exclusive space for biological women, and it was other women who set out to attack it for a multitude of reasons, right? They saw the discussion surrounding 4B on TikTok lives and me initiating that as a problem. I'll read that again. They saw the discussion surrounding 4B on TikTok lives and me initiating that as a problem. Some women claim that they were always 4B, and where did this West 4B bitch come from? And how did she get so viral before I did? Yeah, I actually heard that. There was a black man who's in the military. I don't even remember his TikTok name, but I remember when 4B kind of took off on TikTok, not the actual topic of 4B, but the actual like live discussions. They didn't really have a lot of them before mines kind of went viral on the app, and then more and more people started to just talk about, 4B, and it happened by accident because I was banned from the other page that I now lost because it was reported so much. I lost that page, and then I lost another page because that one was reported for. I think I did a live on John Money, and the live that I did on John Money was reported as hate, and that was my last strike for that TikTok page. So I think I had 3. Now I'm down to 2. And for the people who know the other one that's in the Discord. But this other one is when I kind of went viral on the app. And so there was this black dude, this military dude, and like he spoke very matter of factly. And he's kind of said, well, he had inside knowledge that I was actually sent out by COINTELPRO. Do you know how many black women ate that up? Because he said it? He said that I was an actual agent with COINTELPRO and that I was sent out on TikTok to destroy the black family. Right? I also heard that I was a secret agent sent out by COINTELPRO. This is the guy that I was speaking about, and I was being used to tear the black family apart. That was actually spread by a black man in the military who claimed that I was being paid. This is what he said. I was being paid millions of dollars to start West 4B and separate black men and black women. Mind you, when you go on his profile, because I remember at one point there were like 1,000 people in the room and he was spreading this about West 4B. And he was saying how, oh, the girl from West 4B, she's being paid by the government to kind of separate the black family. So when I was in that live, and of course the live was sent to me, all of the bad lives that were made to talk negatively about me, they were all sent to me. Make no mistake, the women in the other group, they'd made sure that I got every single screenshot, text, live, every minute they were sending me live sessions with people kind of saying that I was trash, that I was garbage, that I should be eliminated, that I should be dead. All of those ladies sent it to me, and they made sure to send it to me. And they kind of like, when they press send, they kind of giggled, they giggled. They love sending me that shit. But when they sent it to me, I clicked on I took a screenshot of the screen report and I clicked on his profile, and he's married to a fucking a woman from the Philippines. Yes, a woman from the Philippines. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with women from the Philippines, but imagine a man going on and on and on from panel to panel to panel about West 4B and claiming that I'm destroying the black family, and he's not even married to a black woman. And this was so crazy because black women that were on the panel with him, because he does have this way of speaking that's very authoritative and very like matter of factly, and he speaks as if he does have that pretty knowledge. And then when you click on his page, you're going to see all of the military personnel photos, his whole American flag thing. And he's not even married to a black woman. And black women, when you go to, of course, you know how TikTok works. When you go onto a panel, people can just give you roses. There was a point in time he had like 2,000 roses. The room was filled with black women. And they were all listening to this man tell them that I was hired by COINTELPRO to destroy the black family, and I was using TikTok as a vehicle to do it. You can't make this shit up. You cannot make this shit up. He went on and on and on. I think I saw him on 5 panels saying this information that I'm trying to destroy Black men and the relationship that they have with Black women. And to me, I'm sitting there in the middle of the night and I'm saying, um, what fucking relationship are we trying to preserve here? Yesterday, the passport bros were saying that they hated Black women so much that they couldn't wait to get away from them. Now that Black women are saying, okay, bet, we're going to leave you alone. We're going to decenter you. We're not going to bother you. Bon fucking voyage, right? Bon voyage. Now they're turning around and saying, oh, we have relationships. What relationship? There was never a relationship. The relationship between Black men and Black women was one-sided, with Black women doing 98% of the work and worshiping 98% of the time. If anything, the Black male has always made it known that he doesn't really like you that much. And if you think that if you if you think that the heterosexual Black man doesn't like you, you should really feel, or you should really see how the Black trans-identified female feels about you. If you think you get hate from the Black homo, not the Black homo, but the Black heterosexual man, if you think you get hate from him, like the Kevin Samuels, red pill, high value male types, if you think you get hate from him, you should see what's said behind your back by the trans-identified Black male who you so insist on believing is more victimized in this society than you are. They don't even like you a little bit. Not even a tiny bit. So the fact that he went on this rampage and kind of said, well, I know about this individual and I have, secret COINTELPRO military information that this individual from West 4B is starting this movement to separate the Black man from the Black woman. And this is delivered and she's being paid millions of dollars to do so. Where is the millions of dollars, sir? And do you know how many Black women heard him say that and hung on to his every word and then came to attack me more because of what he said? He said that I was hired by COINTELPRO. The Black woman then went out of that live. She held her own live and said that, yeah, this person is working for COINTELPRO. This is a COINTELPRO agent. And she's trying to destroy the Black family, and we need to eliminate her because she was paid all of this money to destroy us, and the Black community is so strong, and she's doing something to further separate us. And I'm sitting there kind of like, what the fuck is going on? What strength? What community? Where is it? Explain to me where it is. I can't see it. Where is it? What community do you speak of that this man said that I'm trying to destroy? Where is the community? The same community that's been shitting on Black women for the past 60 years? That's the community that he's talking about? I don't understand that. Very confusing to me. Very confusing. And the fact that his wife is from the Philippines made me more confused because I'm thinking, shouldn't the Black family start with you first as the Black man? So if you don't even take a Black woman as your wife, why are you even speaking on the preservation of the Black family? You're not even married to a Black woman. Your children aren't fully Black. That's from what I saw on the internet, on TikTok. And these times started my peak trans, my radical peak trans. And it started my peak trans because trans-identified males claimed to take down West 4B, and they claimed to take it down because it was filled with TERFs. And what is a TERF? A TERF is defined as a trans-exclusionary radical feminist. So it was made by another trans-identified male who I think writes for The Guardian, but I'm not sure. And that's what they called us, right? We were called that. One of the ladies in the group wrote, they were never your friends. but it's not a big deal. Okay, it's not a big deal, and I think that all women should learn this if you decide to um, build community or build anything to try to help women. You have to not get emotionally involved, and I never got emotionally involved. It doesn't mean anything. If someone fucks with you on Monday and they don't fuck with you on Tuesday, they never fucked with you. They were never your friends. And that's okay too. Some people keep you around because they can, what they call, or what I like to call, I guess, popcorn. Have you ever heard that? Like popcorning your life? They just keep you around for entertainment purposes only. They don't really like you. They don't really fuck with you. They don't really wish you well, but they will use you as a distraction to their own lives, and they will popcorn the shit out of you and kind of watch you go through shit just to see how you will deal with it. It's not a real relationship. They don't like you at all. It's a popcorn situation, and that's the situation that I was in. So let's go back. The trans exclusionary, they're in the Zoom right now. The trans exclusionary radical feminist is what we were called. And I will take you back to the day that we were all called that, and how the trans identified male sent in the liberal feminist to disrupt a really interesting conversation. This happened back in, I think it happened back in April. And um, just to, I guess this is a disclaimer. None of the women who were present that day in the live that I'm about to tell you about talk to me anymore. They all blocked me. They don't fuck with me. They all kind of went on the trans identified male bandwagon and they sided with him. They said, fuck West 4B. And that's just what it is. I can't be mad at that. So the women who were there that day, the day that I'm about to tell you about, this is what happened on that day. And I'm going to be clear with it all, right? And this is my peak trans. Okay, because prior to this, again, I was an ally. I didn't have any problems with anyone. Do whatever the fuck you want. But the minute that you kind of tell me something that I believe to be true and real, I have to question your motives, especially if you're speaking to me and you're trying to get me to go against what I can see with my own two eyes. That bothers me. It bothers the shit out of me. And I think that was my peak trans moment. So no one will ever be able to verify this. No one will ever be able to say, oh, yeah, what she's saying right now is actually true because I was there. None of those women fuck with me anymore. The trans identified male and his power train got them all on board. They all gave me the middle finger to West 4B. None of them fuck with me anymore. But I'm going to tell you about that day because they were there and they saw this happen. And so, and I want you to really pay attention to this story. Okay, and I want you to pay attention to this story in its entirety, because the next time you hear, oh, West 4B is filled with TERFs, you're going to see from this story that I'm going to tell you, from this live show that I did with, I think, 74 women in it, what happened and how we got that label and from whom. Because I think this is the marker date that we got the TERF label. And then when we got the TERF label, um, hundreds of women, one by one, just kind of said, fuck West 4B. Fuck West 4B for what she said in that live. Fuck West 4B for what she did in that live. I don't fuck with her. She's a TERF. She's a bigot. And this is what was said. So I hosted a live on West 4B, and it turned into a discussion around the birthing stories of many of the women who were in the live. So all of us are in the live, and all of us are just talking about there was a few ladies who had children. There was a few ladies who were pregnant. There was one lady who decided that she was one and done. Like, you have one baby and then you don't want any more. It was just 70 women just talking about their birthing stories. Nothing crazy, right? And there were 6 women on the panel, I think 74 or 75 women in the room, and they were all sharing their stories. One was saying that, after she gave birth, she passed out. One said that, she still has back pain to this very day from her epidural. One person said that she can't feel her cesarean scar, for example. Just the comment section was just going crazy. This was just one of our first West 4B movement discussions as women. Right. The trans identified male in that live, in the comment section, because I was made attention to what this trans-identified male says, and the trans-identified male was named Sasha. Okay, Sasha. So in the comment section, we're all talking about horror stories, and women are talking about their terrible stories and giving birth. And Sasha in the comment section says, just because you ladies can give birth, it doesn't necessarily make you women. Can I say that again? Sasha, the trans-identified male in that live said, just because you ladies can give birth, it doesn't necessarily mean that you ladies are women. So of course, everyone is paused, everyone sees the comment, everyone is responding to Sasha's comment. Remember I said this before, when there's a group of women, it's peace. When you introduce that male, it becomes chaotic. And this is a prime example of it. Because as soon as Sasha said that, the entire live turned into, what the fuck was that? So of course, we want to hear more, right? So someone had to drop out of the panel, because I think it was 6 people on the panel. One person dropped out of the panel and we invited Sasha up. And all of us are very affirming, calling Sasha she, her, doing the whole respectful, you're a woman, we hear you roar, affirming Sasha to the hills, right? The entire room, 80 women at this point. And then Sasha gets into the fucking box and Sasha says, well, why do you ladies define yourself because you can give birth? Just because you give birth doesn't make you a woman. And so one person says, and I'm not going to mention her name because I think she gave me the fuck you to West 4B2, but she kind of says, so then what makes us women? And then he says, well, what makes you women is your ability to identify as one, but just because your body can do a certain thing, that doesn't really make you a woman. And so me being goofy, then I said, okay, so then what am I? What am I? Am I a woman? This is the question that I asked Sasha. This is the question that I asked Sasha, a trans-identified male, and Sasha says, well, and then another person said the same thing. So then what am I? And this is another person in the box just who also shared her birthing story. And that person said, so Sasha, I gave birth. So what am I? Can you tell me what I am? Sasha said, oh no, you're just like a birthing person. You're a birthing person. You're not a woman. And so everyone gets dead silent. And then we all say, like, almost in unison, so then Sasha, what are you? Sasha said, no, I'm a woman though. I'm a woman. But you, the person who fucking laid down and gave birth, you're not a woman. You are a birthing individual. You are a birthing individual, a birthing person. Dead silence in the live. But by this point, it's 120 people in the box, not in the box, but in the live. Flowers going crazy. People are going, what the fuck? What the fuck? Everyone is losing their shit off of what Sasha is saying, and Sasha is doubling down on it like no fucking other. And the thing about that trans-identified male, he has the power to call in quick reinforcements. And when he called in his reinforcements, they all came in and they all said the same shit. You ladies aren't women. You ladies are birthers. You ladies are breeders. You're birth givers. You're birthing people. You're not women. We are the women. And then they sent in more reinforcements, right? So he sent in his reinforcements. He sent in other trans-identified male, other Black women who were pro-trans ideology, and they all came into the live. Yeah, and they all tore me apart. And then it turned into the, how dare you, a Black bitch, question what this trans-identified male is saying. How dare you question that? And that's the origins of the how we got called TERFs. That's the origin of the story. That's it. We got called TERFs because we wanted to know what we are. If we're not women, but you are identifying as a woman, then what does that make us? And this was the live discussion. This was a live debate. So we have on record right now what West 4B did to be considered TERF. This is what West 4B did. West 4B said that biological women exist, and West 4B asked trans-identified males what we are. Those were the two sins. And because of those two sins, other lies and other rumors were added on those sins about West 4B. Because the goal now was we have to take down this West 4B shit, and we have to do it fast. So we're going to make up shit about West 4B so that she's discredited all over the place. One rumor was that I was a rapist. Another rumor was that I stole someone's Mercedes Benz. I stole someone's house. I stole someone's dog. There was another WhatsApp group that I left, and all of those women are claiming that I stole millions of dollars from them. None of them can prove it, though. I sold a little cup, like, you know, a little coffee cup. They're all saying that they paid millions of dollars for these cups and they never got them. They were docs. All of their information is out, and I'm the culprit. That is the snowball of all of this. So this is what it turned into. West 4B has two sins in the beginning of West 4B. And it was the first sin, saying that biological women exist. And the second sin was asking, what are we? If we're not biological women, what are we? And Sasha, to his credit, listen to me calling her, still being polite, right? To his credit, doubled down once he saw his reinforcements come into the live. Then he really, he really peacocked it up for us in that live. And he really was on some, you ladies aren't women. You ladies aren't women. I'm the woman. And when we spoke to Sasha, we wanted more information about Sasha. Sasha was, I think, a 48-year-old male, married father of 3, whose wife was also transitioning to male. So that means that Sasha's newly transitioned as well. But Sasha was married before, and I guess Sasha was like, a regular like husband and father. And just transitioned recently. Maybe, I think Sasha said maybe two years ago into the transition, but not actively taking hormones, right? Which is fine. But that was the sin. The sin was us asking Sasha, what are we? If you're telling us that just because your body bleeds once a month, and just because your body has a capacity to give birth, that doesn't really make you a woman. Nothing really makes you a woman, because you ladies aren't women. And Sasha doubled down on this in that live that day. And it said he wouldn't even call us ladies at this point. He said, you ladies, you people are birth givers. Birth givers, right? The other women on the panel started to ask questions, and I'm hosting this thing and seeing the numbers go up. One thing about the trans-identified male is that he will send in, I said this before, reinforcements, because more and more trans-identified males came into the space, and in the comment section, they were cheering him on. They were also saying the same thing that he said, but they were not as polite with it. The women on the panel had more questions for Sasha, and one woman kind of said the same thing. What are you? And Sasha just said, well, I'm a woman. And then it turned into the conversation then turning ugly, and it turning into, well, you ladies are TERFs. You ladies are TERF. This is a TERF movement. And then each of them kind of left and went to go hold their own live. And in their lives, it was the West 4B is a trash movement. Don't follow it. Follow me instead, because I am trans inclusive and I'm not a bigot like she is. She's a fucking bigot because she said that biological women exist and biological women don't exist. So join my movement. Give me coins. Follow me. Come into my Discord. Get on my bandwagon, and fuck her and her West 4B because she's a bigot. Biological women don't exist. and you should follow me instead of following her because she's a piece of shit. And that was the dialogue for, I think, a month. I think a month, no, maybe 2 months. That's all that I heard about West 4B. Even the women in the group were kind of saying the same shit. Like, yeah, you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. We don't fuck with you. You hold events. We never show up. We don't fucking like you, but we're going to keep you around because we're heavily entertained at this whole fiasco. We fucking love it. Our nipples are getting hard watching you get destroyed on every panel on TikTok. We can't get enough. And that's exactly what it was. That's how we became the TERF movement, by saying that biological women exist. That's it. That's how it happened. So are the women in West 4B TERFs? I guess so, because we say that biological women do exist. The liberal feminist says that's not true. Biological women don't exist. Biology doesn't exist. Reality doesn't exist. You don't have any sex chromosomes. You don't have a uterus. Just because you have a uterus, that doesn't make you a woman. Women can be born with penises. And the fact that you don't acknowledge that means that you're a fucking bigot. West 4B. You're a piece of shit. You're over here saying that biological women can't be born with penises. You're a fucking TERF. I had that happen to me for 2 to 3 months. Everywhere I went, every time I opened my phone, a new message, a new, we're gonna fuck you up. My mother's address was put online. My information was put online. All because I said biological women exist. And it wasn't even trans-identified males who were doing this. This was women doing this for the trans-identified male. That's what they were doing for him. I don't even know if he said thank you, but he was very appreciative because he didn't have to do much. All he had to do was sit back, file his nails, and have the women do all of the work for him. And he was glad in that. He got a stiff, hard, cold erection because all he had to do was triangulate a bunch of women away from the message of 4B, which is to decenter men in all capacities: sex, childbirth, marriage, and dating. So we no longer spoke about 4B. No, the topic of discussion was what a piece of shit West 4B is. That was the topic of discussion. Every single day, that was the topic. And there was no support. When that happened, I didn't have any support. No support at all. No one ever said, oh, are you okay? How are you? Are you all right? What does it feel like to have 120, 200 people, 500 people, however many lies there were, all saying that you are a piece of shit? How does that make you feel? Nothing. So when I say in the group that I'm in now that I didn't lose anything because I didn't get anything from anyone. If anything, I had to kind of stand on my own feet and I had to encourage myself. And that's what I continuously do. When you are a mentally strong person, you have to constantly big yourself up in the midst of spineless people. So I was constantly surrounded by spineless women because behind the scenes, and I'm going to be honest with you, the women who were present on the panels where I was being destroyed and were saying, yes, West 4B is a piece of shit. Yes, West 4B is transphobic. Those same women were behind the scenes saying that they agreed with me, but they could never come out and say that they agreed with me because they would then lose all of their TikTok friends too. So they never did. And that's the truth as to what happened that day. And I didn't get any support, and I thought that I would get support. And the only reason why I thought that I would get support, and that was the wrong thing for me to think. I didn't know that I was so isolated in the way that I thought, because there's so many times that I spoke to people outside of TikTok. And these same people held live discussions on West 4B being, I guess, transphobic, and they themselves had the same views off the record that I did. They had the same exact views. They had the same exact questions, but they wouldn't go out and say that on TikTok and say that, no, I think, having a space for biological women is okay. None of them did. Every single individual that I met on TikTok agreed with the trans-identified male and the belief that biological females do not deserve their own space. Biological females should be inclusive to every and anyone because that is her duty to do so. And if she is a person of color, she's more obligated to include everyone despite what they identify as, because none of the boxes that we make are real. They're all fake. White men put us in boxes. There's no such thing as biology. Men can be born with vaginas, and women can be born with penises. And the fact that you're going against this, West 4B, means that you are a white supremacist bigot. The fact that you keep saying that biological women are real means that you're a white supremacist. You're a cult leader. That's what I was told. You're leading a cult because you're telling people that, having a uterus makes you a woman. That's bullshit. A man can have a uterus too. And a biological man, he can get pregnant and have a baby to full term. Men can get pregnant too. Men can breastfeed. How dare you? How dare you make a distinction between the two groups? You're a bigot. And that's what I got for 2 to 3 months straight on TikTok until my accounts were deleted by TikTok because I already had so many strikes from my previous content. And so back to Sasha, the trans-identified male. And I think I even took a screenshot. He had like purple hair and like green makeup. I remember it, like green, like neon. It was some type of weird makeup that Sasha had. And then Sasha called in other people who called in other people who called in other people. And that's just how it happened that day where we were designated as TERFs. And then the whole shit hit the fan. And then so when someone said to Sasha again, "What am I?" Sasha said, "Well, no, dear, I am a woman. You are a birth giver, and you should not use," this is Sasha's words, right? "You should not use your ability to give birth as a signifier to you being a woman. I am a woman. You are a birth giver." That is what was said in a room filled with women who were just sharing their birthing stories with one another. It was so peaceful from what I remember. And none of the women were arguing or fighting. It was just story after story of blood and stitches and epidurals and depression. And then Sasha, this trans-identified male, came in and disrupted that whole beautiful moment between biological women. And I'm sure you hear me using the term biological women a lot. And I really started to use that term when I built my website, west4bmovement.com, more than a year ago. I saw a trans-identified male write that biological women don't exist. He had this whole 8-page paragraph discussion on how biology doesn't exist and how we should stop acknowledging biology and sex. That what's happening to us all is because of gender and sex does not exist. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, but I see young brides. I see young girls getting a female genital mutilation. We see what's happening to young girls all over the world. The youngest girl ever on record to get pregnant was 5 years old. 5 years old. So how can we say that sex doesn't exist when we're being discriminated against and tortured because of our sex? So I saw that a year ago and I said, no, biological women do exist and it's okay, right? And this person on the internet said that there were no differences between him and a person with a uterus and how his uterus was just hanging on the outside and how he possessed a vagina instead, and a set of hanging ovaries. This is how he described his anatomy. He said that he had a vagina and hanging ovaries, and that this business of talking about biology is bigotry. And we should not speak about biology because biology doesn't exist. And talking about biology is a TERF dog whistle. So when you do hear of a woman talking about biology, run, steer clear from her because she's a bigot and she's a Nazi. And she's also a white supremacist when she calls attention to sex, and biological sex at that. So that was being spread around about me on TikTok. I am a white supremacist, a cult leader, a bigot, a transphobe, a TERF, and my 2 cents, I'm going to keep saying them, is me saying that biological women exist and me asking a trans-identified male, what am I? That's how this all started, right? And then I made my website. I wasn't peak trans yet. I just wrote that this space is for biological women, and that when the attacks started, the ladies who were on that panel with me that day, of course, I said this before, they no longer talk to me. The majority of ladies who were with me in the beginning of West 4B and it going viral on TikTok no longer speak to me. I hold no match to what trans-identified males can get accomplished, right? I'm a big nobody in compared to what, what they can do. So those women don't even fuck with me anymore, right? And 100% of them chose a trans-identified male, and the comfort in that selection over a relationship with me and West 4B. They saw that the attacks to West 4B on the basis that I said that biological women do exist and wanted no part. They wanted no parts of that smoke. They had jobs and kids and families and relationships with people on TikTok that they did not want to lose, right? They didn't want to lose anything for no West 4B bullshit, right? So they all kind of gave me the fuck you. The dialogue then changed into we like the principles of 4B. We just don't like her because her West 4B movement talks about biological women and them existing, and there is no such thing as a biological woman because a trans-identified male told me so. So these supporters of trans-identified males came in to slay me. Shortly thereafter, they hosted their own lives about me, exposed my family's information, and did so much more. I was told that there was even a hacker out to get me, and that was the start of a whole other issue that was buried under this so-called support of the trans community. So all of the hate for West 4B actually came from women who felt the need to inform me that, one, biological women do not exist, and two, you are a TERF for even thinking that they do. You're a TERF because you think that biological women exist and they don't. That's how I got the TERF label. That's why I lost support, but gained support from women who lost support the same way that I lost it. So, to me, a win is a win. A win is a win to me, right? Now I am around people who have their heads based in reality, and they say things like, oh, women had the ability to breastfeed children. And it's okay to say the words like breastfeed, even though we're ushered not to say those words. So the women that I'm with now, they don't participate in these linguistic tricks that we see happening. Biological women do exist. Menstrual cycles are real. And women cannot be born with a penis. There's nothing wrong with stating biological reality. Nothing wrong with that. So that's basically it. I didn't even know how to do anything after that. I just spoke to other women who had their Facebook pages taken away from them, their TikToks taken away from them. They messaged me and they kind of said, for what you are doing, you need to reel it in. You need to be more careful than what you are doing. You need to not have the information that you have on your website open to the public. And that was a good thing because so many people used my website for their live content and saying that, well, look right here, she wrote the word biological woman. She's, Adolf Hitler. She's a Nazi. She's a Nazi because look, she wrote the word biological women and we have the screenshots right here. She reposted something that says trans women are biological men. She's a TERF. We got to get rid of her. So I was told to kind of do it that way. And And that just made sense to me. And I was saying that before. I was actually wrong for one, claiming that biological women exist, and two, that it's okay to have a space of our own. I should have done that more privately, considering the climate that we live in, where everyone is petrified to kind of speak out and say how they feel. Women are not allowed to speak. Women don't have that ability to speak anymore. And the trans identified male community makes sure that the trans identified female is, you know, doesn't, like I said earlier, they don't really give a shit. But that trans identified male doesn't like when anyone speaks out or says anything that has to do with biological reality. And I was severely attacked online, and all of those women in I said that before, the first group, they kind of enjoyed it. They stayed in the group to watch me being attacked. It was not because they believed in anything that I was doing. It wasn't about the message anymore, right? It was just about, um, oh, look at what this person is saying about you. That's what it turned into. And which made sense because after I got a bunch of screenshots of what they were really saying about me, and that, like I said before, I didn't lose anything. I didn't lose anything. I didn't lose anything. And I think that everything happened the way it was supposed to happen, because then you saw everyone kind of jump on it went from West 4B being a TERF movement to now West 4B is funneling out tax dollars and millions of dollars from, WhatsApp group members. And they're all concerned because they all purchased a $10 cup. So because they purchased a $10 cup, they felt that, now all of their personal information is out there. They were all being doxxed by me. I secretly put all their information on the internet. This is the narrative. This is what's being said about West 4B. None of it can be proven to be true, though, because there's no information out there, but let them tell it. And the turf thing is the reason why these rumors have to perpetuate. So no one really knows what happened or my side of the story. They just are going on the rumors that were originally started by a trans identified male. So even when radical feminists came into the YouTube space, who were following me in the beginning, they kind of did the tisk, tisk, tisk. How dare you steal money from women and scam women? I heard that about you. Where did you hear that? They heard that from the trans identified male. That's how it played out, right? And then on the belly of it, when you ask the trans identified male, okay, so show me proof that she actually stole a Mercedes Benz from you while on the internet. Show me proof that she stole your dog. Show me proof that she stole blood samples from you, urine and hair follicles. Show me proof that she stole millions of dollars from countless women. I want to see it from the trans identified male. He wouldn't have any proof. He wouldn't have any proof. None. Show me proof that there was a Mercedes Benz stole. Because I heard that too. Show me proof of me, West 4B, being a rapist. Because that was another rumor that the trans identified male put out about me online. The rumor online about me being a rapist is that I read that I raped some woman. I raped someone. So then prove it. Who did I rape? And this is the rumor that all of these women who no longer speak to me kind of went out and told people that, oh yeah, don't fuck with that West 4B. She actually rapes women on the internet. How? How? How am I stealing Mercedes Benz and raping women off of the internet? How am I doing that? Yeah. And I remember that radical feminist. I do remember her because I remember her coming into the comment section and her really like just jumping on the bandwagon of me being a rapist. A radical feminist right here on YouTube believed that I was actually stealing money from women, stealing Mercedes Benzes, stealing houses, stealing blood samples, and I was also in the streets raping them. No proof at all, just rumor. And then this radical feminist told other radical feminists, oh, don't mess with that, West 4B. She's, you know, she can steal a Mercedes Benz from you right over your TikTok page. So that happening to me was my peak trans moment. And I just wanted to say, not only is a trans identified male dangerous, he is also a liar. And his lies will penetrate the mind of any woman that he finds himself around. He convinced women that they should not have a space of their own and that he should be included and be made to be the center of all that she does. It was a trans identified male who told me on a live that feminist separatism never worked and how 4B does not make any sense because radical feminists have always included the trans identified male and held him up as the center of their struggle and held them up as real biological women. This is what I was told, right? And this is what I disagreed on. This is where we disagree. And it's okay for the biological woman to claim who she is and to have a space of her own. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay for women to talk to each other about their bodies and their loss of their sex-based rights without a biological male being present. It's okay for women to question and to think and to do whatever they want to do on their own. It's okay for women to do their own research in regards to trans ideology. And doing these things do not make women bigots. So you're telling me that if a woman wants to kind of study the history of trans ideology, that makes her a bigot? This is what's being said. And I encourage all women to do their own research. Don't listen to me because you ladies don't listen to me anyway. Well, except for the ladies in the group. For the most part, the ladies who are not fucking with me, they don't listen to me. They don't like anything that I have to say. They call, what is it? A rapist, a grifter. I steal, I rob, I kill. I do so much, right? So don't listen to me. But if anything, if you are going to subscribe to an ideology, at least know the history of it, which is what I love. I love history, right? So I get to the history of all things, religion, spirituality, and trans ideology. It's no different because it comes out of a male. I'm always looking for where men got their ways of thinking from. I'm always looking at history because of that. It's okay for women to question and to think and to do their own research in regards to trans ideology. And doing these things do not make women bigots. It makes them informed. And that is one thing that we have seen in regards to the biological male. He hates when women are informed just as much as he hates, and he really hates it when you are more informed than he is. He hates that you are informed, but he really hates it when you know more than him. And we see this shit all the time. The biological male has a groupthink, pack-like mentality again, and when he does get around women, he encourages the same behavior. So, to stop women from listening to me, he will have other women host lives on who I am and not the message of biological women actually being real. And something else should be said about that because look how easy it was to distract the biological woman from the message of 4B. Look how much mess went into this distraction of her, this distracting her. So for 2 months, she didn't speak about anything that had to do with real 4B activity and how to get this message out to young girls or women who we feel that it could help. Her main focus was taking down a TERF. Her main focus was making the trans identified male give her a gold star. Her main focus was, I don't like this West 4B bitch because I believe that I'm better than her. And she shouldn't be going viral for the way she's speaking about this so-called movement she brought to the West, which she didn't even really bring to the West. 4B has always been in the United States, and I've always been talking about 4B lifestyle. I've been talking about 4B lifestyle before anyone has ever even heard of it, including the women in Korea. That was the dialogue. Don't follow her. She's a bitch. Follow me instead because I'm better than she is. Don't pay her any attention. Fuck her and her content. Listen to me instead. Listen to the trans-identified male instead. Don't listen to her. Listen to me. Give me the coins. Give me the money. As if I was making millions of dollars from talking about West 4B. Not a dime, not a penny, but let these women tell it from the WhatsApp group and all of them. The groups that came up after the We Hate West 4B movement groups, they will all sit around and tell you, yeah, she stole a lot of money from all of us. She stole my dog. She stole my house. She stole my boyfriend. She stole my children. She stole everything. Let them tell it. And West 4B stole their lungs right out of their fucking carcass. Let them tell it. Right? And this all has to do with the trans-identified male initiating this drama, coming into a space with biological women and starting drama. So this is the reason why a lot of women don't want for the trans-identified male to be anywhere around them. And I'm so thrilled that now there are other 4B groups that include him. I'm so thrilled at that. I'm so thrilled that now they have a 4B for the trans-identified male and the non-binary person and all the individuals who sign on under that. I'm sorry. I'm thrilled about that. Because where we are, we don't have any drama. But where they are, they bring drama everywhere they go. And if you don't see drama, it's because no one has challenged them yet. No one has said anything to make them froggy, right? So if you do see them in a space with biological women, it's because the biological women are shaking in their boots and they know better than to step out of line when he's around. So they don't step out of line. They're very respectful, they affirm, they encourage, they center, they uplift him, and that is what they do. This is why if you do see them around women, it's because the women are very well behaved. And they are very well behaved because they are scared as shit of him and what he can do. So if he decides to ruin your life, right? So it's good that other 4B groups are accepting the trans-identified male. The women in Korea that I met up with, they said they are from the original 4B, which never accepted biological men. But now that 4B has come to the United States, it has accepted the biological male. The trans-identified male is centered in this 4B discussion by the women who started 4B because they hate my guts. And I'm glad that those women are now, it's getting quiet now, and I'm glad that there's a distinction between the trans-identified 4B movement and then West 4B, which is the feminist, separatist, radical, biological woman-only movement. So it's good to kind of have two. So now, where we are over here, we can focus on the Not Our Crimes petition, the prison outreach petition that we're doing to kind of talk to women who are now being housed in prison with violent men and how to kind of set up a pen pal situation for those women so they at least have an outlet for women on the outside. We don't really see the trans-identified 4B groups doing that. And why would they? Because again, they're going to say that that doesn't happen. Women are making it up. They're lying. And that's good too. What they won't do, I will do. And I'm going to do it well, because if I don't do anything, once I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to make sure that I do it well, especially if it means helping marginalized biological women who are in situations where they can't get out of. And being in prison, locked up with a violent sex offender, is a situation that you cannot get out of. That is a situation that you cannot get out of. And you have no one to talk about it to because no one gives a shit, right? You're already in prison. You are already in prison. And no one gives a shit about you. No one gives a shit about your experience, but I give a shit. I give a shit. And because I give a shit, I will continue to do the work that I'm doing. So I'm glad that there are other 4B groups out there that accepts biological men. I'm happy for you. Wonderful. It's actually splendid. And I urge you ladies to continue to be on your best behavior. And you better fucking make sure of it too. And since I was already exposed online for being a piece of shit, and what else do they call West 4B? Since I've already been exposed as being a rapist, a car thief, a house thief, I steal people's pets, I steal animals, I'm also a TERF. All of the bad things that you can associate with someone, that's what I am, right? According to all of the women in the WhatsApp group, all of the women in the old WhatsApp group, wonderful. So I'm holding this live to kind of give information as to how this all started and how we got the TERF allegation. And we got the TERF allegation because we said something as simple as biological women exist. That's how we got the title of TERF. And that's how we got the title and the hatred from all Black women for West 4B. It came because I said that Black biological women do exist. Biological reality who came in to slay me, because you know that's what Black women do best. They come in to slay, they come in to read, they come in to, spill tea, they come in to kind of get you all the way together, with the fingers swinging in your face. They kind of gotta put you together and read your, I guess, raggedy ass for filth because you are a turf bitch, right? And the only thing that I said, again, is that, biological women exist. So we're going to read what happens when you say simple things in this climate of um, reality should not exist. And I'm going to read to you what I found to be a very profound letter. And it was the letter written by J.K. Rowling in 2020. Now, prior to this letter, I think J.K. Rowling was an ally, and I'm not sure what happened, but we'll get into it in the letter. But in the letter, she kind of writes out, what happened. And the reason why this letter is so significant is because when you do actually sit down and read the letter, you see that J.K. Rowling wasn't saying anything out of the ordinary or radical. But it's radical in this climate because women are being silenced and their erasure is being perpetuated. So I wanted to read this to all of the women out there who are or who may be in a similar situation to mine, where you have women stabbing you in the back and talking about you behind your back and coming to attack you when you're minding your business. You have trans identified males attacking you, doxing you, putting your information out there, putting your family's information out there. I wanted to make this live or end this live with encouragement to you to let you know that this happens to all of us who peak trans. This happens to all of us who start to kind of align ourselves with reality because women have been delusional and hand holding delusion with men for centuries. This is how we got so oppressed. 12,000 years of oppression just doesn't happen. It's delusional participation, which is what makes it happen. So I wanted to get into that and to also encourage you, if this is your peak trans, then you can also reach out to me. I get a lot of emails. Sometimes I get bad ones. Sometimes I get really good ones. But for the good ones, it's everything that I'm saying to you today. My only crime in West 4B is saying that biological women exist. My only crime to the radical feminists who kind of came in on the TikTok live or the YouTube live and said that I was a piece of shit is I asked a trans identified female, what are we? Those were the only two crimes. And I'm going to read to you why it's important to kind of have this dialogue. And this is the work that I'm going to, put out there. And I just wanted to also read this before I read the J.K. Rowling letter. I wanted to read this as well because I said prior to I started this bit that, it was so easy for the trans identified male to shift the mindset of the women that he targeted to shift. The message no longer became about 4B. The message he wanted was for it to be catty drama. He shifted their focus, and because they are so male identified, it was so easy to shift them. It was an easy shift for him. The Black trans identified male knows that his biggest champion is the Black biological female. She will blindly hang on to every word that he says because he is, in fact, male and not a biological woman like her. He can literally sit in front of her and say, giving birth. I'm sorry, I'm going to read that again. He can literally sit in front of her and say, giving birth does not make you a fucking woman, and she will agree when it comes to the Black male. She will agree. She will always agree. And she will agree because when it comes to the Black male, she has been rudely programmed to agree with every word that comes out of his fucking mouth. That is not allyship. This is not allyship. This is male worship, Black male worship, as Cynthia G put it, and fear. What happened to me is not something that she feels she can go through, right? What happened to me is not something that any Black woman wants to go through. What happened to me is not something that any woman wants to go through. So her best bet is to behave, right? Her best bet is to agree with him, continue to put out the false narrative of him being the most victimized person on the planet, and to put out the narrative that me, West 4B, is a rapist and a scammer, and, to keep her and other women in his corner. He needs that support. The greatest advice that I got came from the ladies who saw this happening and messaged me back when my messages in TikTok were on. My TikTok page was taken down, and the Reddit page was also reported, and I was banned there as well. It's all for saying that, biological women do exist. This is the attack, and this is not only happening to me, this is happening to other radical feminists in the new group that I'm in as well. All of these women, this has happened to. All of these women. And when we meet on Mondays, we always talk about how this happened to Kay Yang. Kay Yang was almost beat up during Pride about 2 years ago. Almost beat up, her poster taken away from her. She was attacked. They surrounded her. They spilled water on her. They attacked her. And what did her sign say? Her sign said, stop female erasure. Stop language that erases the female, i.e. chest feeders, birth givers, uterus holders. And then she put, just call us women. It's okay to say that we have breasts. It's okay to say that we can breastfeed. It's okay to say that we have the uterus. This is why she was attacked. Can you imagine that? This is why Kay Yang was attacked in Central Park, because she simply said, oh, it's okay to say that we're women and not uterus holders or vagina carriers. And she was attacked by other women, other young women of color, who didn't even know why they were attacking her. They just knew that the trans-identified male initiated it. He was mad. And they themselves, as biological young girls, got mad too because they saw him being mad, and he let it. He pulled, you see, if you watch the video, you see a young male pulling the sign from her, running away with it. You see other women pouring water on her, and this is okay treatment. This is what women will sign up for. And then even Kay Yang says afterwards, when the women, when it all died down and people were kind of saying, oh, her being attacked was not okay, she was able to peak trans all of them. And the reason why she was able to peak trans all of them is because of their behavior, of the behavior of the male who was in the mix. When the male is introduced to any space, he is violent. He is violent and he is angry, and he wants for that energy to be put on the women around him. He wants the cat fight. He loves it. He loves the cat fight. He loves the beef, because when we're fighting each other as women, we don't get any work done for freedom. We don't get free if we're fighting each other. And he loves that. He's always loved it. And this is how he has been so successful in history thus far. So we're going to get into the J.K. Rowling letter so that you can hear what actually happened and what J.K. Rowling said to get the amount of death threats that she's gotten. I want for all women to kind of hear her letter because no one knows about the letter, but everyone knows that J.K. Rowling is someone to hate. And I remember when I was being, I guess, called out and read online by all of the Black women and all of the trans-identified males, they kind of pulled up my Twitter and says, "Ooh, look, she reposted something that J.K. Rowling said." And then that made me go back to research and look for the letter that she did write in 2020. And I wanted for all women to kind of listen to this letter and really pay attention to these instances of groupthink and sheep mentality. How one person doesn't like something and other people have no idea what was said, but they know because this one person doesn't like it that they then too shouldn't like it either. And this is what happens to women who are weak-minded, lukewarm in form, and also just highly mediocre. I don't hate someone because everyone is saying that I should hate them. I have to know you first before I develop an opinion. And sadly, the majority of women are not like this. The majority of women kind of follow behind the leader and they kind of think the way that the leader tells them to think. And I've always said, I am not a leader. I would never sit on this internet and tell you how many degrees I have or what my experience is because you won't believe me anyway. And even still, you all have all said that I'm illiterate. I can't read. I don't have any degrees. I'm not a real professional. I don't know anything, right? So you're never going to listen to me anyway. But if you are listening right now, then I always ask people to make sure that if you do hate me, then make sure that you at least do your own research in regards to what you believe in. And many women do not. They don't do any research in regards to spirituality. They don't do any research in regards to the concept of God. And they definitely don't do any research in regards to this trans ideology that they hold so close to their hearts. They hate, Black women hate J.K. Rowling because of this letter that I'm going to read to you. And I want you to listen to the letter and tell me what is in this letter that warrants her execution. J.K. Rowling said the same thing. Biological girls and women do exist. And you have countless Black women saying that she should be harmed because trans-identified males don't like her. And this is where we are. Women no longer think for themselves. They have no idea that she even wrote the letter. And I also wanted to read the response to her letter written by Chichi Mamba. I think that's her name. I'm going to go back and read her name. I think I'm saying her name wrong. But her middle name is Ngozi. And this is a Black woman who wrote a response to the J.K. Rowling letter. And in her response, Ngozi said, "I don't find anything that J.K. Rowling wrote to be hateful, or unreasonable. There was nothing in that letter that J.K. Rowling wrote that was unreasonable. It was level-headed, it was clear, it was to the point, it was concise, and it basically talked about what women are thinking and their feelings." Ngozi was also attacked for simply saying that she didn't find J.K. Rowling's letter offensive or unreasonable. This is where we are as Black women. We just follow behind the leader, follow behind what they tell us to think, and we never do our own research. And this is sad. This is sad that now Black women are listening to trans-identified Black men and them insisting that biological women don't exist. And it is the Black woman who gave fucking birth to him. And he will sit in front of you and tell you, "Oh, well, you're a cis and you don't exist." And she says, okay, I agree. And then he says, now go attack any other bitch who disagrees with what we just spoke about. And she says, okay, I will do so. Anything else, master? King of mine. I see the ladies in the new group on TikTok, and I wanted to really thank you for your support. Oh, and that's another thing. I was told to hide pages and didn't even know I could do that before. I guess they call these the TERF tricks for survival, because you have to go to these great lengths to steer clear of the male-minded boy mom and her allegiance to trans ideology, because it is primarily male-centered. The pro tip is to make several pages and host lives from there. The trolls can't find what isn't made public, and every day I am gaining more support and learning how to stay anonymous, and the only videos of me are now behind a paywall. So if you want to be a troll, I will know exactly who you are once you decide to sign up. So setting up, all of this stuff, my website the way it is, and how it works now was suggested because I didn't know what I was doing before, and I was too vocal about biological women and them existing. Like, you can't say that biological women exist anymore because the trans-identified male and, of course, his flying monkey, the boy mom, will come swooping in and saying that you are a crazy bitch and you're transphobic. And this is what has been said about 4B. It doesn't really come from anyone other than the boy mom and the trans-identified male, and that's who you see it mostly coming from. And like, I just also wanted to say that I sometimes can't believe the silencing efforts that men go through to get women to not question them. But if it can happen to someone like J.K. Rowling for that letter she wrote back in 2020, that it can happen to anyone. I want to read that letter, and I want you to listen to it and ask yourself if anything J.K. said warranted these biological males calling for her death. What the fuck did she say that was so unreasonable that these men are calling for this mother to be killed? What are we all subscribing to here? Why is this preoccupation from women not speaking okay? Why is this okay with the whole lot of you? Why is this okay? Can anyone explain that to me? Is it okay because it's coming from a male? We all know that male violence is a problem. Is that why so many women are scared to speak? They don't want what happened to me to happen to them? Let's read J.K. Rowling's letter, and then I will follow up with reading another letter like I told you about before. And this same thing happened to her too. She was attacked. All women are so petrified of these men, and this is how they like it. This is the male violence and how it's being turned around to suggest that you are actually the violent one for not confirming or agreeing with them. I don't know what it is, but I have to be an extremely lucky person in all of this. The support that I have on my little irrelevant ass website is incredible. More and more women are signing up because they actually see what's happening and they're getting piqued to this ideology. They want more information. They heard about female erasure and their ears sprung up because they themselves are women and are questioning what they are because they were told by trans-identified males and other boy mom flying monkeys, well, you don't really exist. You are not real. You're a birthing person. You're a chest feeder. You're a uterus holder, a vagina carrier. And these women, these boy moms, are absolutely okay with this new terminology and these linguistic tricks that we see happening. I'm not okay with it. And I'm never going to be okay with it. Women don't have anything as it is. At least let us have our anatomy and the proper terminology of it. I never once told anyone to go out and harm or dox or expose any trans-identified male. But when I made West 4B, and I said that it's exclusive to biological women, the trans-identified male set out his flying monkeys, his boy moms, his women that he had in his corner to do those activities to me. And it's not only me. I'm not special here. This happens to all women who decide to think for themselves. If it can happen again to J.K. Rowling and Miss Ngozi and Kay Yang and Isabella and Jennifer Follow the Money Bielik, it can happen to all women. And it is happening. But the more that it happens, the more popular that I get. And the reason why that happens is because women don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle it, and it's all new to them. And the minute that they get attacked is the minute that many of them peak trans. So with the trans-identified male behaving this way, and the trans-identified male follower, the biological woman, the boy mom, the supporter, the one who's holding him up and going out and slaying dragons for him, the more they bully people and behave like this online, the more allies they actually lose. And I have testament of that. Because every woman that's in my group now was a fucking ally until she was bullied by a group of women or by a group of trans-identified males on the internet. Similar to what Rivera said at the beginning of this video. This bullying is the reason why everyone is turning their backs on that community. Yeah, it's happening. It's happening right in front of us. And we only need to watch it happen, because give it 10 minutes, like I always say, and the narrative is going to be different. You're going to see people all of a sudden coming around now and saying, what was I thinking? Of course, biological women exist. How did we even get here? Yeah, you got here because you were listening to people, a lot of which have mental illnesses that are not addressed. Similar to what Rivera said at the beginning of this live. So it's not us. We're not the ones that are not in reality. We exist in reality. It's them who do not. And they're taking on the weak-minded individuals along with them down this delusional pathway again, similar to religion, similar to spirituality, and all of the other male ideologies that forced women to the back. So we're going to get to J.K. Rowling's letter, right? And I also wrote, yeah. It also happened because there are some people educated in groupthink and saw it a mile away. That's how I got a lot of support. When the whole thing was happening online and I was being doxxed and exposed, and everyone in the WhatsApp group was kind of laughing at me and saying, good for her, fuck her, she deserves to be hurt. She deserves to be, everything that happened to her is good for her. Yeah, this is what the ladies in the WhatsApp group were saying, right? And so there were some people who contacted me after that, after they left the group, and was kind of like, oh, I saw some shit and this is what I'm here to tell you. And these women saw the group think from a mile away. The women who were in that group were never allies with me. They were never West 4B. They wanted their own group and they wanted that following for themselves. And they were just around, like I said, to kind of popcorn the situation, right? And these are the women that are claiming that, you know, I stole millions of dollars from them, blood samples from their veins, hair follicles from their head, their dogs. They saw the groupthink and immediately told me to vanish if I was serious about helping biological women and girls and not censoring the trans-identified male. This is not hate of him. This is response to his own misogyny and his need to be centered in a feminist, separatist movement. So we're going to get to J.K. Rowling's letter, and then we're going to get to Ngozi's letter as well. And I want for you to, if you are listening to this, I want for you to hear this letter, not the haters, because the haters are listening. We already know that. They're already hating and they're saying, oh, you know, I hope this bitch gets killed. I hope she gets hit by a bus. Wonderful. It's not for you. But for the other people who may be listening, this could be your peak trends. I want you to listen to the J.K. Rowling letter from 2020. And I want for you to decipher for yourself when you hear this letter and me reading it, and Ngozi's letter as well, if anything in this letter is deserving of what happened to J.K. Rowling shortly thereafter. I just want you to think for yourself. And women are not allowed to think for themselves. They're not allowed to think in peace. And I always talk about Ressa Tessa and how the only time that she was able to see that she was being lied to is when the man who was lying to her stopped speaking and she was allowed to sit down and think. And not to bring up Ressa Tessa, but it's just a really good example of when men are constantly around you and in your ear, they knock you off of what's supposed to be your center. And they do that on purpose because if you're confused, then he's more clear about confusing you. He lives to confuse you. He lives to make you up in a whirlwind with his ideology. And then once he gets you there, then you're high and you're dry and you subscribe to everything and you do everything right. Right? We always say that for 12,000 years, women have been on their best behavior. And what has listening to men got women? So you're attacking West 4B and you're listening to men still. He just has a dress on. He just has a dress on. That's the only difference. But the package is the same. There are no hanging ovaries, those are testicles. There is no vagina, it's a penis. But this is what he's convincing you, and you're subscribing to it because you hate other women who are doing something different than you, but you kind of sort of advocate for because you don't really have a good track record with men either. But for some reason, having a man in a dress is better than not having a man at all, right? It doesn't make any sense. So for the ladies who are listening, who are thinking, oh, maybe I should kind of investigate this more. I'm going to read J.K. Rowling's letter to you because there are many, many, many Black women who hate J.K. Rowling. And I only found that out on TikTok. I didn't even know that so many women hated J.K. Rowling. And they only hate J.K. Rowling because the trans-identified male hates J.K. Rowling. But I want you to listen to, as a biological woman, what J.K. Rowling said. And I want you to kind of erase what the trans-identified male told you about J.K. and about Ngozi, because Ngozi also was badly bullied online, similar to what's going on with Katy Perry right now, badly bullied. And it's so funny that this is happening to Katy Perry because when you saw Katy Perry in Las Vegas, her whole entire lineup was gay men. She didn't have one woman on the stage. Her entire lineup was gay men in fucking drag. They even said it. There were no, I think Katy Perry was the only biological woman on the stage. So for them to all of a sudden turn on her and say that she's a bigot because she put a fucking uterus in her video, where are we right now? And a uterus is not associated with womanhood, and it's wrong for people to claim that only women can be born with a uterus. Who else is born with a uterus? Oh, non-binary people. Men are born with a uterus. Okay, so then prove it. Prove it. That's all. Yeah, let's get to this letter. Yeah. Just for context again, right? My Twitter was pulled up and everyone gasped because they saw a repost of a tweet of J.K. Rowling that I put on my page. Everyone in the TikTok live, all of the women held their breath, and the trans-identified male kind of said, look, West 4B is transphobic. She reposted a J.K. Rowling tweet. Yeah, she reposted that. We got to get her, right? We have to get her. She reposted something that J.K. Rowling said. So this is the beginning of the J.K. Rowling situation. This is from June 10th of 2020. This is how it all started with J.K. Rowling, with this one fucking letter that she wrote. Okay? So let's get into it. And this is what it says. It says, J.K. Rowling writes about her reasons for speaking out on sex and gender issues. So I want you to listen to this and I want you to think for yourself, ladies. I know it's difficult, but try to separate yourself just a little bit from the boy mom and the trans-identified male and try to kind of think for yourself in what J.K. Rowling is trying to say here about sex and biological reality. I know it's difficult, but just try with me. And if you don't want to try, then that's fine too. For the ladies who are trying to get into this and trying to figure out, oh, maybe I should do a little bit more research in regards to this topic, then this is for you. This may be your peak trans, because I don't feel that this letter is unreasonable, but let's get into it. And this is what J.K. Rowling wrote. It says, warning, the below content is not appropriate for children. Please check with an adult before you read this page. To go back to the children's page, please click here. This is what it says. This isn't an essay piece to write for reasons that will shortly become clear, but I know it's time to explain myself on an issue surrounded by toxicity. I write this without any desire to add to that toxicity. For people who don't know, last December, I tweeted my support for Maya Forstater, a tax specialist who lost her job for what were deemed transphobic tweets. She took her case to an employment tribunal, asking the judge to rule on whether a philosophical belief that sex is determined by biology is protected in law. Judge Taylor ruled that it wasn't, right? It says my interest in trans issues predated Maya's case by almost 2 years, during which I followed the debate around the concept of gender identity closely. I've met trans people and read sundry books, blogs, and articles by trans people, gender specialists, intersex people, psychologists, safeguarding experts, social workers, and doctors, and follow the discourse online and in traditional media. On one level, my interest in this issue has been professional because I'm writing a crime series set in the present day, and my fictional female detective is of an age to be interested in and affected by these issues herself. But on another, it's intensely personal, as I'm about to explain. All the time, I'd been researching and learning. Accusations and threats from trans activists have been bubbling in my Twitter timeline. This was initially triggered by a like when I started taking an interest in gender identity and transgender matters. I began screenshotting comments that interested me as a way of reminding myself what I might want to research later. On one occasion, I absent-mindedly liked instead of screenshotted. The single like was deemed evidence of wrongthink, and a persistent low level of harassment began. Months later, I compounded my accident like crying by following Magdalene Burns on Twitter. Magdalene was an immensely brave young feminist and lesbian who was dying of an aggressive brain tumor. I followed her because I wanted to contact her directly, which I succeeded in doing. However, as Magdalene was a great believer in the importance of biological sex and didn't believe lesbians should be called bigots for not dating trans women with penises, dots were joined in the heads of Twitter trans activists, and the level of social media abuse increased. Okay? And then she writes, I mention all of this only to explain that I knew perfectly well what was going to happen when I supported Maya. I must have been on my fourth or fifth cancellation by then. I expected the threats of violence, to be told I was literally killing trans people with my hate, to be called cunt and bitch, and of course for my books to be burned. Although one particularly abusive man told me he composited them. What I didn't expect is in the aftermath of my cancellation was the avalanche of emails and letters that came showering down upon me, the overwhelming majority of which were positive, grateful, and supportive. They came from a cross section of kind, empathetic, and intelligent people, some of them working in fields dealing with gender dysphoria and trans people who were all deeply concerned about the way a socio-political concept is influencing politics, medical practice, and safeguarding. They worried about the danger to young people, gay people, and about the erosion of women's and girls' rights. Above all, they worried about a climate of fear that serves nobody, least of all trans youth. Well, I stepped back from Twitter for many months, both before and after tweeting support for Maya, because I knew it was doing nothing good for my mental health. I only returned because I wanted to share a free children's book during the pandemic. Immediately, activists who clearly believe themselves to be good, kind, and progressive people swarmed back into my timeline, assuming a right to police my speech, accused me of hatred, called me misogynistic slurs, and above all, as every woman involved in this debate would know, TERF. Yeah, they called J.K. Rowling a TERF because she posted a free book for children. But let's continue to read. This is in from June 2020. This is J.K. Rowling's letter. If you're just walking in, it says, if you didn't know, and why should you? TERF is an acronym coined by trans activists, which stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. In practice, a huge and diverse cross-section of women are currently being called TERFs, and the vast majority of and the vast majority have never been radical feminists. Examples of so-called TERFs range from the mother of a gay child who was afraid that their child wanted to transition to escape homophobic bullying, to a hetero, totally unfeminist older lady who's vowed never to visit Marks and Spencer's again because they're allowing any man who says they identify as a woman into the women's changing rooms. Ironically, radical feminists aren't even trans exclusionary. They include trans men in their feminism because they were born women. But accusations of turfery had been sufficient to intimidate many people, institutions, and organizations I once admired who cowered before the tactics of the playground. They are called us transphobic. They called us transphobic. They'll say, I hate trans people. What's next? They'll say that you got fleas. Speaking as a biological woman, a lot of people in position of power really need to grow a pair, which is doubtless literally possible according to the kind of people who argue that clownfish prove humans aren't a dimorphic species. So, why am I doing this? Why speak up? Why not quietly do my research and keep my head down? Well, I've got 5 reasons for being worried about the new trans activism and decided I need to speak up. Firstly, I have a charitable trust that focuses on alleviating social deprivation in Scotland with a particular emphasis on women and children. Among other things, my trust supports projects for female prisoners and for survivors of domestic and sexual abuse. I also fund medical research into MS, a disease that behaves very differently in men and women. It's been clear to me for a while that the new trans activism is having or is likely to have, if all its demands are met, a significant impact on many of the causes I support because it's pushing to erode the legal definition of sex and replace it with gender. The second reason is that I'm an ex-teacher and the founder of a children's charity, which gives me an interest in both education and safeguarding. Like many others, I have deep concerns about the effect of the trans rights movement is having on both. I'll read that again. I have deep concerns about the effect the trans rights movement is having on both. The third is, as much banned author, I'm interested in freedom of speech and have publicly defended it, even unto Donald Trump. The fourth is where things start to get truly personal. I'm concerned about the huge explosion in young women wishing to transition and also about the increasing numbers who seem to be detransitioning, returning to their original sex because they regret taking steps that have, in some cases, altered their bodies and taken away their fertility. Some say they decided to transition after realizing they were same sex attracted and that transitioning was partly driven by homophobia, either in society or in their families. Most people probably aren't aware. I certainly wasn't until I started researching this issue properly, that 10 years ago, the majority of people wanting to transition to the opposite sex were male. The ratio has now reversed. The UK has experienced a 44,000% increase in girls being referred for transitioning treatment. Autistic girls are hugely overrepresented in their numbers. The same phenomenon has been seen in the US. In 2018, American physician and researcher Lisa Littman set out to explore it. In an interview, she said parents online were describing a very unusual pattern of transgender identification where multiple friends and even entire friends groups became transgender identified at the same time. I would have been remiss had I not considered social contagion and peer influences as potential factors. Littman mentioned Tumblr, Reddit, Instagram, and YouTube as contributing factors to rapid onset gender dysphoria, where she believes that in the realm of transgendered identification, youth have created particularly insular echo chambers. Her paper caused a fury, and she was accused of bias and of spreading misinformation about transgender people, subjected to a tsunami of abuse and a concerted campaign to discredit both her and her work. The journal took the paper offline and reviewed it before publishing it. However, her career took a similar hit to that suffered by Maya Forstater. Lisa Littman had dared challenge one of the central tenets of trans activism, which is that a person's gender identity is innate, like sexual orientation. Nobody, the activist insisted, could ever be persuaded into being trans. I know you've heard that before, but let's continue. The argument of many current trans activists is that if you don't get or if you don't let a gender dysphoric teenager transition, they will kill themselves. In an article explaining why he resigned from the Tavistock at NHS Gender Clinic in England, psychiatrist Marcus Evans stated that claims that children will unalive themselves if permitted to not transition do not align substantially with any robust data or studies in this area, nor do they align with the cases I've encountered over decades as a psychotherapist. The writings of young trans men reveal a group of notably sensitive and clever people. The more I'm sorry, let me read that again. The more of their accounts of gender dysphoria I've read with their insightful descriptions of anxiety, disassociation, eating disorders, self-harm, and self-hatred, the more I've wondered whether if I'd been born 30 years later, I too might have tried to transition. The allure of escaping womanhood would have been huge. I struggled with severe OCD as a teenager. If I found community and sympathy online that I couldn't find in my immediate environment, I believe I could have been persuaded to turn myself into the son my father had openly said that he preferred. When I read about the theory of gender identity, I remember how mentally sexless I felt in youth. I remember Colette's description of herself as a mental hermaphrodite and Simone de Beauvoir's words, "It is perfectly natural for the future woman to feel indignant at the limitations posed upon her by her sex. The real question is not why she should reject them. The problem is rather to understand why she accepts them." As I didn't have a realistic possibility of becoming a man back in the 1980s, it had to be books and music that got me through both my mental health issues and the sexualized scrutiny and judgment that sets so many girls to war against their bodies in their teens. Fortunately for me, I found my own sense, of otherness and this is what she says, I'm sorry. Fortunately for me, I found my own sense of otherness and my ambivalence about being a woman reflected in the work of female writers and musicians who reassured me that, in spite of everything a sexist world tries to throw at the female body, it's fine not to feel pink, frilly, and compliant inside your own head. It's okay to feel confused, dark, both sexual and non-sexual. She says, fortunately for me, I found my own sense of otherness and my ambivalence about being a woman reflected in the work of female writers and musicians who reassured me that, in spite of everything a sexist world tries to throw at the female body, it's fine not to feel pink, frilly, and compliant inside your own head. It's okay to feel confused, dark, both sexual and non sexual, unsure of what or who you are. I want to be very clear here. I know transition will be a solution for some gender dysphoric people, although I'm aware that through extensive research that studies have consistently shown that between 60 to 90% of gender dysphoric teens will grow out of their dysphoria. Again and again, I've been told to just meet with some trans people. I have. In addition to a few younger people who were all adorable, I happen to know a self described transsexual woman who's older than I am and wonderful. Although she's open about her past as a gay man, I've always found it hard to think of her as anything other than a woman. And I believe and certainly hope she's completely happy to have transitioned. Being older, though, she went through a long and rigorous process of evaluation, psychotherapy, and staged transformation. The current explosion of trans activism is urging a removal of almost all the robust systems through which candidates for sex reassignment were once required to pass. A man who intends to have no surgery and take no hormones may now secure himself a gender recognition certificate and be a woman in the sight of law. Many people aren't even aware of this. We're living through the most misogynistic period I've experienced. Back in the 80s, I imagined that my future daughters should I have any, would have it far better than I ever did. But between the backlash against feminism and a porn saturated online culture, I believe things got significantly worse for girls. Never have I Never have I seen women denigrated and dehumanized to the extent they are now. For from the leader of the free world, long history of sexual assault accusations and his proud boast of grabbing them by the pussy to the incel involuntarily celibate movement that rages against women who won't give them sex, to the trans activists who declare that TERFs need punching and re education. Men across the political spectrum seem to agree. Women are asking for trouble. Everywhere, women are being told to shut up and sit down or else. I've read all the arguments about femaleness not residing in the sexed body and the assertions that biological women don't have common experiences. And I find them too deeply misogynistic and regressive. It's also clear that one of the objectives of denying the importance of sex is to erode what some seem to see as the cruelly segregationist idea of women having their own biological realities, or just as threatening, unifying realities that make them a cohesive political class. The hundreds of emails I've received in the last few days prove this erosion concerns many others just as much. It isn't enough for women to be trans allies. Women must accept and admit that there is no material difference between trans women and themselves. And this is where the bullying comes from, and you all see it. Many of you participate in it, but this is what JK is writing. But as many women have said before me, woman is not a costume. Woman is not an idea in a man's head. Woman is not a pink brain, a liking for Jimmy Choos, or any of the other sexist ideas now somehow touted as progressive. Moreover, the inclusive language that calls female people menstruators or people with vulvas strike many women as dehumanizing and demeaning. I understand why trans activists consider this language to be appropriate and kind, but for those of us who've had degrading slurs spat at us by violent men, it's not neutral. It's hostile and it's alienating. Which brings me to the fifth reason I'm deeply concerned about the consequences of current trans activism. I've been in the public eye now for over 20 years and have never talked publicly about being a domestic abuse and sexual assault survivor. This isn't because I'm ashamed. Um, Wait, hold on. This isn't because I'm ashamed. Those things happen to me, but because they're traumatic to revisit. And remember, I also feel protective of my daughter from my first marriage. I didn't want to claim sole ownership of a story that belongs to her too. However, a short while ago, I asked her how she feel if I were publicly honest about that part of my life, and she encouraged me to go ahead. That's another thing that you see with trans identified males. They are persistent in lifting up the skirts of biological women. They want to know your whole backstory. They want to know everything about you. If you were abused, if you were hurt, if something awful happened to you in your past, they want to know it so that they can expose you and tell people what happened to you so that you can constantly relive it. This is male ideology. This is the male brain. They want you to be hurt. So when women came in here from the WhatsApp group and said, oh, this is who you are, it's the same male-minded pattern of behavior. They have to kind of keep making you relive something tragic because to them it feels good. This is male-minded thinking, and this is why women participate in it. They have to kind of hurt you because they themselves are hurting, or they are surrounded by or in close proximity to a bunch of men. And that's just what it is. And again, the reason why I'm reading this is because this was given to me by someone in the group who said, you need to read this because what happened to her happens to all of us. We get exposed, we get embarrassed, and other male-minded women, they like for that to happen to you. They want for you to kind of relive pain. So even with JK, they found out about what happened to her. They found out about all of these things in her past, and they made her relive it because that is the behavior of men. That's just how they behave. And then this is what she writes. I'm mentioning these things now, not in an attempt to garner sympathy, but out of solidarity with the huge numbers of women who have histories like mine, who've been slurred as bigots for having concerns around single-sex spaces. I managed to escape my first violent marriage with some difficulty, but I'm now married to a truly good and principled man, safe and secure in ways I never in a million years expected to be. However, the scars left by violence and sexual assault don't disappear, no matter how loved you are and no matter how much money you've made. My perennial jumpiness is a family joke, and even I know it's funny, but I pray my daughters never have the same reasons I do for hating sudden loud noises or finding people behind me when I haven't heard them approaching. I'm gonna read that again. It says, my jumpiness is a family joke, and even I know it's funny, but I pray my daughters never have the same reasons I do for hating sudden loud noises or finding people behind me when I haven't heard them approaching. Yeah, sudden loud noises. Sudden loud noises. There's some women who don't like the sounds of, like, for example, I guess she's talking about gunshots or people sneaking up on her in the dark. This is what she's talking about. This is a victim of violence. But the trans identified male and the woman who follows underneath him loves for you to relive that violence. This is why they talk about it all the time, right? Yeah. So it continues, if you could come inside my head and understand what I feel when I read about a trans woman dying at the hands of a violent man, you'd find solidarity and kinship. I have a visceral sense of the terror in which those trans women will have spent their last seconds on earth, because I too have known moments of blind fear when I realized that the only thing keeping me alive was the shaky self restraint of my attacker. I believe the majority of trans identified people not only pose zero threats to others, but are vulnerable for all the reasons I've outlined. Trans people need and deserve protection. Like women, they're most likely to be killed by sexual partners. Trans women who work in the sex industry, particularly trans women of color, are at particular risk. Like every other domestic abuse and sexual assault survivor I know, I feel nothing but empathy and solidarity with trans women who've been abused by men. What did J.K. Rowling here say that is so unreasonable? She is acknowledging every statistic surrounding trans identified people and also trans people of color. And because people have never heard this letter, some of people of which have never even read it, they believe that she's evil. Okay? And it says also, I want trans women to be safe. At the same time, I do not want to make natal girls and women less safe. When you throw open the doors of bathrooms and changing rooms to any man who believes or feels he's a woman, and as I've said, gender confirmation certificates may now be granted without any need for surgery or hormones, then you open the door to any and all men who wish to come inside. That is the simple truth. On Saturday morning, I read the Scottish government is proceeding with its controversial gender recognition plans, which will in effect mean that all a man needs to become a woman is to say he's one. To use a very contemporary word, I was triggered, ground down by the restless attacks from trans activists on social media when I was only there to give children feedback about pictures they'd drawn from my book Under Lockdown. I spent much of Saturday in a very dark place inside my head as memories of serious sexual assault I suffered in my 20s reoccurred on a loop. That assault happened at a time and in a space where I was vulnerable, and a man capitalized on an opportunity. I couldn't shut out those memories, and I was finding it hard to contain my anger and disappointed about the way I believe my government is playing fast and loose with women's and girls' safety. And then she continues on to say, late on Saturday evening, scrolling through children's pictures before I went to bed, I forgot the first rule of Twitter. Never ever expect a nuanced conversation. And wait, let me read that again. I went to bed, I forgot the first rule of Twitter. Never ever expect a nuanced conversation, and reacted to what I felt was degrading language about women. I spoke up about the importance of sex and have been paying the price ever since. I was transphobic. I was a cunt, a bitch, a TERF. I deserved canceling, punching, and death. You are Voldemort, said one person, clearly feeling this was the only language I'd understand. It would be so much easier to tweet the approved hashtags because, of course, trans rights are human rights, and of course, trans lives matter. Scoop up the woke cookies and bask in a virtue singling afterglow. There is joy, relief, and safety in conformity. As Simone de Beauvoir also wrote, without a doubt, it is more comfortable to endure blind bondage than to work for one's liberation. The dead, too, are better suited to the earth than the living. Wow. The dead, too, are better suited to the earth than the living. That's so crazy. What a great quote. What a great quote. Without a doubt, it is more comfortable to endure blind bondage than to work for one's liberation. Wow, huge numbers of women are justifiably terrified by the trans activists. I know this because so many have got in touch with me to tell me their stories. They're afraid of doxing, of losing their jobs or their livelihood, and of violence. Can I read that again? Can I read that again? This is J.K. Rowling speaking. And she's speaking about the same thing that happened to me online at the behest of the trans-identified male and the trans rights activist and his flying monkeys, all of the boy moms that came to read me to filth. Per T work, as per usual, fix her, kill that bitch. Can I read what J.K. Rowling just wrote? Huge numbers of women are justifiably terrified by the trans activists, as you should be, because this is their behavior. And the women who align themselves with them, this is me talking, this is not JK. The women who align themselves with the trans identified male, it's because she's scared of him. She's not an ally, she's petrified. She doesn't want to be doxxed. She doesn't want her YouTube channel taken down. She doesn't want to lose friends. She doesn't want to lose community. I lost all of that and I'm still going. And I feel, like I said before, it's not a real loss to me. Because again, if you don't, if someone doesn't fuck with you if someone fucks with you on Monday and then on Tuesday they hate your guts, they never fucked with you to begin with. They never liked you. They just tolerated you because, you were something to tolerate, but they were never your friends. They were never your allies. They never liked West 4B. They never wanted to be in the group. It was just something to kind of do, to kind of popcorn their way through the work week, right? So this is what she said. Huge numbers of women are justifiably terrified by the trans activists. I know this because so many have gotten in touch with me to tell me their stories. They're afraid of doxing, of losing their jobs or their livelihoods, and of violence. When you put someone's address on the internet, or when you put someone's mother's address on the internet and you tell everyone their real name and their real information and they didn't do anything to you, this is violence because the expectation is, I want someone to come and do something to her. Right? That's what it is. So the reason why it was so easy for me to kind of have another community is because, again, similar to, not to say that, oh, West 4B is like J.K. Rowling. No, not at all. But there's so many women who had the same thing that happened to me, getting attacked online by a bunch of women and trans-identified males, and them saying, oh, this happened to me too. I saw what happened to you on TikTok. I saw what happened to you. It was posted on, there's another person who kind of posted all of the lies, and it's on her page. And they saw me getting yelled at. They saw me getting screamed at. They saw the lies because it's all recorded. We need to do something about her. There's something wrong with her. This is a dialogue. This is the behavior. So women that have had the same thing happen to them, they had to move away from the people who they thought were their friends, as long as they just agreed with them, and make their own circles. And that's where we are now. So we are gender critical in this circle, and it's okay for us to be gender critical. It's okay for us to do our own research and to think for ourselves. But endlessly unpleasant as its constant targeting of me has been, I refuse to bow down to a movement that I believe is doing demonstrable harm in seeking to erode woman as a political and a biological class and offering cover to predators like few before it. I stand alongside the brave women and men, gay, straight, and trans, who are standing up for freedom of speech and thought and for the rights and safety of some of the most vulnerable in our society: young gay kids, fragile teenagers, and women who are reliant on and wish to retain their single sex spaces. Polls show those women are in vast majority and exclude only those privileged or lucky enough never to have come up against male violence or sexual assault, and who've never been troubled to educate themselves on how prevalent it is. The one thing that gives me hope is that the women who can protest and organize are doing so, and they have some truly decent men and trans people alongside of them. Political parties seeking to appease the loudest voices in this debate are ignoring women's concerns at their peril. In the UK, women are reaching out to each other across party lines, concerned about the erosion of their hard-won rights and widespread intimidation. This is what the trans community is doing to themselves. By you bullying women and twisting women's arms and telling them that biological women exist, and now you're so concerned because people are no longer voting for your interests, this is something that you did. Now, from what I'm seeing in my little stupid, irrelevant ass group, as the flying monkeys and the boy moms and the trans identified males would call it, there's Republicans, there's Democrats, there's independents, and they're all on the same page in regards to this issue. I've never seen that before. I've never seen women claim who voted blue their whole entire life now claim that they just might very well vote red this election. And why? It's because of what they see happened to women and girls and it not being right to them. Now, some people will say, oh no, they're wrong. We have to vote blue regardless. We have to vote blue regardless. Biden is, one eye open still. Put him back in office for another 4 years. Some people are not doing that. And so, none of the gender critical women I've talked to hates trans people. On the contrary, many of them became interested in this issue in the first place out of concern for trans youth, and they are hugely sympathetic towards trans adults who simply want to live their lives, but who are facing a backlash for a brand of activism they don't endorse. The supreme irony is that they attempt to silence women, and the word TERF may have pushed more young women towards radical feminism than the movements seen in decades. The last thing I want to say is this: I haven't written this essay in the hope that anybody will get out a violin for me, not even a teeny weeny one. I'm extraordinarily fortunate. I'm a survivor, certainly not a victim. I've only mentioned my past because, like every other human being on this planet, I have a complex backstory which shapes my fears, my interests, and my opinions. I never forget that inner complexity when I'm creating a fictional character, and I certainly never forget it when it comes to trans people. All I'm asking, all I want is for similar empathy, similar understanding to be extended, and to this extension to go out to the many millions of women whose sole crime is wanting their concerns to be heard without receiving threats and abuse. Yeah, that's the end of J.K. Rowling's letter. I think I'm going to have to make a part 2 to this video, and I'm going to read the letter response from Miss Ngozi as part 2. But this was a really long live. Thank you all for being here, listening to this. I know you have other places where you could be, but I think this gets to the bottom of it because I have work to do. we all have work to do. I'm working right now on the Not Our Crimes petition and getting that to the URC. We're actually working. We're not just sitting around in a group not doing anything. We meet, we organize, we talk to one another, we figure out things that we can do to help marginalized women. So the prison letter writing campaign, that was my idea. The Not Our Crimes petition on change.org, that was my idea. I didn't see anyone else doing it, so I decided to do it. And that's always has been my personality. If you don't like something, then you go out and you change it. But I'm not going to compromise my beliefs, and I'm not going to compromise the reality that I see in my eyes to make anyone comfortable. If that makes me a TERF, if that makes us all TERFs, then so be it. Right? This is your peak trans. This is my public record of dissent. And I'm going to stick by it. And I know that history will absolve me, as Fidel Castro said. I know many of you probably hate Fidel Castro, but that's one of my most favorite quotes, is that one day you're going to remember that, oh, I remember a girl who said years ago that biological women exist. And you know what? Today, I think she was actually right. That's going to happen. It's going to happen. Everyone is about to change clothes very soon. And the reason why everyone is changing clothes as rapidly as they are is because of the behavior of the trans-identified male in these internet spaces and his flying monkeys and the boy moms and the pick-me's and all of the rest of them who now have all of this access to men but don't want the access. So get into the comment section. Let me know what you think. This is a very long live. This is part 1. I didn't know it was going to be this long, but I'm glad that I did it. Let me know what you think about JK's letter in its entirety. And part 2 is coming up. Just give me 10 minutes, as I always say, to all of the ladies in the WhatsApp and the Zoom and the Discord right now on the website chat space. I love you guys. Thank you so much for kind of sticking it out. Thank you for telling me what to do. Thank you for telling me also the mistakes that I made in engaging and trusting and listening or kind of having that engagement with women who didn't mean me well. And it's really good to kind of have this newness happening now where everyone is trying to work. We're not talking, we're not gossiping, we're working. So please like, share, subscribe. Let us know what you think about J.K. Rowling's letter in the comments section. Visit west4bmovement.com. All of the hidden links, everything is hidden behind that wall. Oop, that's just the way it is. But thank you so much for participating. Thank you so much for signing up to all of the members who kind of pulled up to the west4bmovement.com website. Thank you for that. You don't have to. I appreciate it. But I guess if we're all going to be bullied and told that, you know, we don't exist, might as well we sit together with that information and figure out what to do next, right? Thank you for listening and have a good one.